There is an undeniable truth. Knowledge is power. It can be a sword to slay enemies, or it can kill its wielder. Zachary nimbly gathered firewood, trying to think about outings with his new girlfriend and his family when he was young. He decisively tossed aside the weak young branches, suddenly feeling like an unwilling woodcutter. Zachary relaxed his muscles a little. Dad must have gone to buy wood too. Anyway, he had to admit that being alone in the woods like this didn't feel bad. He sighed inwardly. It was also good not to have to see Hannah's friends anymore. They'd played together for a long time, so he always found it hard to fit in. Tyler, Hannah's friend, though not exactly a friend, loudly criticized the mess on the ground. "Hurry up, everyone, who set up this tent." David, Izzy's boyfriend, hurriedly confessed. "Oh, sorry, that was me. Izzy didn't know how to do it, so I went over to show her." Izzy carried supplies over and calmly said, "Relax, Tyler, this is a picnic for everyone to enjoy. Do you want some sweets?" Tyler anxiously looked at the empty patch of ground. "No, I don't need any. It's just getting late. We arrived late and still haven't finished anything." Hannah, Jack's girlfriend, calmly reassured them. "Everything will be fine like last time. Besides, Zachary can help a hand. He's good at this stuff." Zachary was the only one who actually put in the effort. "I'll help with whatever's needed," he said. She casually dumped the work on him, saying he'd been camping with his family many times. Zachary didn't argue. He was almost done chopping. Tyler comfortably bossed him around like a servant. "Really? That's great. Then go find more firewood for the campfire, you little woodcutter." Zachary took the gleaming axe and walked off. He stared at Tyler in a way that made him feel a chill down his spine. Zachary smiled amiably and passed by. Just as he disappeared from view, Tyler immediately strained his neck to criticize. "Your boyfriend is way too tense," Hannah mocked to brush it off. The group all watched Zachary suspiciously. But who is he anyway? Zachary easily gathered a fair amount of wood. "I think this is enough." He discarded some small twigs to lighten his load. "No need for too much wood, it's only one night." Suddenly he stepped on a strange foreign object. Zachary immediately felt a chill run down his spine. He was abruptly pulled into a completely different space. "What the hell is this? What's happening?" Suddenly a mechanical screen appeared with a message. "System start. Welcome to the multiverse." He furrowed his brow, trying to make sense of it. The multiverse? Zachary guessed at a few possibilities. "Am I dreaming, or am I going insane?" The system continued. Planet Earth scan complete. Gravity and undifferentiated energy are being adjusted. Because size and energy do not meet requirements, planet Earth will be merged with another planet to reboot the geographical space. Respawn points will be placed randomly. Living beings will be upgraded to ensure difficulty. The more Zachary read, the more confused he became. Upgrade living beings? Finally, the screen displayed. Connection to the multiverse system activated. He grew so tense he broke out in a cold sweat. "Izzy, put the rod into the cake." "Hannah, David, can anyone hear me? Where is this?" Suddenly a piercing sound rang out with the announcement. "Initiating teleport to respawn point. Error, Harold Urkaz cannot teleport at this time. You must use the spin to survive." Behind Zachary, a sinister aura manifested. A gigantic monster glared at him. Zachary was stunned. "What the hell is that?" It roared, baring deformed, razor-sharp teeth. "System notice. Due to the vast power disparity between you and Harold Urkaz, the odds favor the opponent. Harold Urkaz. 11000000 spins Zachary. 100 spins the side with fewer spin points will be annihilated." Zachary was aghast. "What kind of fucked up odds are these?" He flatly refused. "It's such a gap I'm not spinning." But the system paid no heed. Protocol SL 34.572 followed Zachary's instruction. Spinning. He frantically pounded the screen. "Wait, cancel it. What the hell is this spin?" A sharp ding sounded. Zachary's result was 96. He steadied himself a little. 96, 100. Well, that's about as high a score as could be expected. At the same time, Harold Urkaz's 6-digit sequence began to move. Protocol SL 34.572 followed Harold Urkaz's instruction. Spinning. Zachary stopped caring about the result. He had already resolved himself. He knew the situation well. With such a power gap, a high score alone wouldn't be enough. The sound of the spin tormented his mind. Zachary thought of loved ones he hadn't had time to say goodbye to. He kept blaming himself. "I haven't even said goodbye to Dad." Or Markenge. "God, I'm such a shitty brother." Suddenly he wondered when anyone would come looking for him. Hannah's friends probably wouldn't care about Zachary. He went numb, accepting that his fate was to die and lose everything. Zachary brimmed with hatred for that damned spinning machine. He clenched the axe in his hand, giving up caring. He resolved, "I won't care about that machine's probabilities anymore." His whole body tensed. Numbers seemed to coat Zachary's body. "Give me one chance, just once." The spin stopped at 91. The system displayed the message. Congratulations. Zachary continues to exist. Zachary was dumbstruck with shock. He didn't understand what the hell was happening. I won. At the same time, Harold Urquhaz began to be erased. Harold Urquhaz's 91 spins were rendered unusable. Its massive body was struck by a blistering white light. A swirling red vortex rolled toward Zachary. His right eye acted as a gateway, channeling the energy into his body. A series of screens appeared in succession. Protocol conclusion. Zachary continues to exist. Harold Urquhaz eliminated. Continue optimizing resurrection protocols and upgrading Zachary. Not long after, he was returned to a forest. Zachary groaned on the cold ground. He sat up dazed and looked around. What just happened? Zachary frantically checked his body. Did I just faint? I need to get back quickly. But this didn't seem to be the original forest. His gaze fell on the strange vegetation before him. Where am I? A system appeared and briefly explained. Because size and energy do not meet the required conditions, planet Earth will be merged with another planet to reboot. Zachary rubbed his temples tiredly. It's not just my imagination. None of this is a dream. He retraced his steps from memory. This path leads back to the campsite, right? Zachary groped his way through the forest that felt both familiar and strange. After a while, he finally reached his destination. Here we are. He spotted the familiar RV. I remember parking nearby. Looks like they started the fire without waiting for me. He called out loudly, "Hey, is everyone okay?" Zachary froze at the gathering spot. There wasn't a single person around. He immediately sensed danger. A monster was casually gnawing on the crate the group had brought. What the hell is that? Its bizarre form didn't resemble any creature on Earth. It let out a roar that generated a shockwave, knocking Zachary back. The monster charged at him swiftly. Zachary tightened his grip on the axe. He decisively swung in a wide arc. The beast was cleanly sliced, but it still managed to leave a deep claw mark on his shoulder. He was truly surprised. Can't believe I'm this strong. Zachary began to connect the dots with the display he had just seen. System start. Welcome to the Du Vu TR letter 1E5. He recalled the anomalies he'd encountered. The monster. Everything had felt too real. Zachary pressed on the wound in his bicep. This isn't a dream, it's all real. He immediately decided to run. Where is everyone? Help me. Zachary tried to get into the vehicle, but the monster was right behind him. Damn it, where did they go? I have to get out of here. Its speed was terrifying. Zachary leaped to the side to dodge. The monster crashed straight into the vehicle. At that moment, he suddenly noticed the pattern. It's fast, but once it charges, it can't change direction. His mind shifted gears and quickly found a solution. Got it. While the beast was still dazed, Zachary ran behind it and loudly baited it. Hey, over here. The monster immediately turned and charged. He ran straight into the forest. It ran madly, as if completely devoid of reason. Bounding in long leaps toward Zachary, he panted heavily, having lost a fair amount of blood. Zachary led it back to the exact spot where he had been teleported. Sure enough, the ground began to tremble again. He knit his brow. His hand trembled, but he immediately denied it. I'm afraid of facing death, but no, this isn't fear. The forest shook even more violently. A surge of power erupted within Zachary. Anger. He roared a challenge. Come on, kill me. The monster leapt forward in a frenzy. Knowing the pattern, Zachary easily dodged. It slammed straight into a rock at the base of a tree. The creature quickly jerked back, growling and scanning for him. Zachary had somehow already climbed up the nearby hill. He aimed directly at the vertebrae on its back and brought the axe down hard. Its spine immediately snapped apart. Zachary kept swinging the axe in a relentless flurry. The monster screamed in agony, blood splattering all over him. Compared to the previous beast, this one was nothing. Each axe blow was precise, shredding its spine to pieces. While he never stopped chopping, a strange power flowed through his body. System notice, plus 100 Nessus coins. Zachary was exhausted. He dragged himself back to the campsite, his wounds still bleeding. As he walked, he called Hannah's name. Is anyone here? We have to. He let go and dropped the blood-soaked axe. Zachary crawled along the side of the vehicle. Finally, he reached the door handle. He collapsed from exhaustion right in front of the vehicle. Zachary had only one wish left, to return home. Zachary woke up groggily. Bright sunlight blazed down. He hauled his battered body up and shook his head. Looking at his bloodied hands, Zachary exclaimed, "Oh my God." He fumbled for his phone. What time is it? It was 8:47 a.m. Zachary's eyes widened in disbelief. He shouted in shock, I've been asleep for 3 days. After that, Zachary got into the vehicle and treated his wounds. Where had Hannah and the others gone? 3 days had passed with no sign of them. Their belongings were still where they'd left them. He fumbled for a while before finishing the bandages. I have to accept the truth. If they haven't come back, they're probably dead. Zachary went around looking for information. What's going on? He climbed onto a branch. How can my body heal so fast? If things were like before, I should be dead, but I'm still alive. He tried to contact the outside, but there was no network service in this forest. There was hardly any feasible way to leave. The car was out of gas. Zachary retrieved his axe, the most useful weapon he had. He recalled the strange things he'd seen earlier and the monster. What is that thing? Aliens? Or is Earth being invaded? He grew worried about his family. If this forest had been transformed, what about the outside world? Zachary thought of his tearful little sister, Kenzie. He burned with determination. I have to get back home. He tried to climb higher, gripped the handle, then drove the axe blade deep into the tree trunk for a foothold. Zachary looked out into the distance. A vast forest stretched out before him. If there's any way to get back, he couldn't believe it, an endless sea with no land in sight. Am I on an island? He knitted his brow in hatred. Damn it, what did you do to my world? Zachary shouted curses at the damned system. No sooner had he finished than a blue interface appeared. A series of screens flooded in one after another. Born to destroy, defeat the first monster in the world. All stats plus 10% Reaper Surreal, single-handedly defeat the fusion commander in the world. All stats plus 5. All stats plus 10% Lucky Draw, successfully perform a lucky draw in battle with a monster, luck plus 5, luck plus 20%. Giant Slayer, killed an enemy 5 levels higher alone, all stats plus 1. Heir of David, killed an enemy 10 levels higher alone, all stats plus 2. Power Progression, killed an enemy 25 levels higher alone, all stats plus 3. Leviathan Slayer, killed an enemy 50 levels higher alone, all stats plus 5, all stats plus 10%. Explorer, reached level 10. Strength plus 1, resistance plus 1, intelligence plus 1. Zachary was bewildered. What is this? He stared blankly at the screen. Is this me? The system panel appeared in detail, showing every parameter. Name: Zachary Atwood. Level: 16. Race: Human. Earth. Titles: Born to Destroy, Surreal Reaper, Lucky Draw, Giant Slayer, Heir of David, Power Progression, Leviathan Slayer, Explorer. Strength: 31. Dexterity: 25. Resistance: 27. Vitality: 27. Intelligence: 29. Wisdom: 29. Luck: 44. Free stats: 30. Nessus coins: 5,100. He grew increasingly dissatisfied. Great, so it turned this world into a game, huh? Zachary explored further. I'm level 16 already. Is it because of that camera? Almost all my stats came from these titles. He noticed a window, Infinite Potential Quest, reach level 25. Reward: unlock the bone-splitting head skill, kill 4 heralds and an infiltration leader within 3 months. Special reward: 10 E-rank Nessus crystals depending on the outcome. Infiltration Master, confront infiltration enemies and defend the base for 3 months. Reward: base upgraded to a town, receive the Mayor title. He noticed a red pillar of light in the distance. I guess that red beam is an infiltration zone, but where is the base? The system appeared, requirements met to create a base. Create now. Zachary was hesitant. A base? He instinctively looked down at the makeshift camp behind him. Having a place to call home wouldn't be bad, better than being out there fighting monsters. After a moment of consideration, he decided, all right, create it, create base. The screen flickered for a moment. Zachary was surprised. That's it. Congratulations, you have successfully built a base. Suddenly a voice rang out. What are you doing here? Zachary immediately went on high alert, his killing intent flaring up. What the? You're not human. He instinctively stepped back and slipped off the tree. A creature narrowed its single eye to look down at him. And you are not one of my kind either. Zachary tried to regain his balance while falling. He managed to grab hold of something in midair, but immediately paled. What he had grabbed was the long, writhing body of a python. It immediately coiled tightly around him. I let my guard down. The python squeezed frantically, trying to tear Zachary apart. It was lightning fast. He scolded himself while looking for a way to escape. It looks like a game, but it's not. I can't let my guard down around here. If I want to be stronger, I have to risk my life. Zachary let go with one hand, grabbed the python's head, and squeezed with all his might. I'm not dying here. He slammed its head hard against the tree trunk, making the snake vomit blood. Just then the branch snapped in two. Both he and the python fell straight down. Zachary gritted his teeth. The system only awards those who dare to hunt. He grasped the core rule. Strength is the prerequisite for survival in this world. If I want to survive, I must become the strongest. On the other side, the strange creature silently thought. He doesn't seem to see things like this often. It hovered comfortably around the base. But that guy intends to choose a tree for a base. Vetha Barak evaluated him wearily. It had supported countless entities from many races across the multiverse. Humans were always highly rated, but a treehouse was the stupidest thing it had ever heard of. Suddenly, a noise from below caught its attention. Zachary was frantically swinging his axe, blood splattering with every strike. Vethabarak was stunned and hurried over to check. Zachary was panting with exhaustion. He had chopped the python into many large and small pieces. He glared, pointing his axe at Abby, threatening. It thought sullenly, "Understood, perhaps I judged too quickly. You are quite talented." Zachary did not lower his guard. Abby introduced itself. "My name is Vethabarak, or you can call me Abby. I was sent here to assist you in building the base." Zachary cautiously asked, "My name is Zachary. How can you talk without a mouth? What do you mean by assist?" Abby looked down with contempt. "Excellent. Another idiot who skipped the tutorial. I am the support officer dispatched when you chose the base building quest." Zachary grumbled in frustration. "Tutorial? What tutorial? That system didn't say anything to me. 3 days ago, it just left me alone in this forest." Abby nodded. "So you didn't get a tutorial, huh? I figured." Immediately after, it screamed in panic. 3 days? This world only started 3 days ago. Did you mix it up with 3 months? Zachary confirmed firmly. Abby tapped its round head. "If that's the case, then I'm interested. You must have been labeled as a defiant. Finally, I've hit the jackpot." Zachary frowned in confusion. "What kind of title is that?" Abby began to explain in detail. It said the world had just merged with the multiverse, a place comprising many galaxies that had existed for billions of years. Many others from Earth would be transported to the rookie village for training next month. Zachary hurriedly asked, "So my family is safe, right?" Abby confirmed that if they were in the rookie village, then yes. But it also pointed out a cruel truth. There were some who lacked the ability to absorb cosmic energy. Those who couldn't cultivate would sooner or later die, because they couldn't withstand the threats. Zachary and Abby returned to the camp. He glared vigilantly and asked, "Are there any other defiants? Does that mean I have to die too?" Abby did not deny it. "Maybe, maybe not. Defiants are individuals who can increase their power far beyond expectations. The system thought you were a weakling and decided to kill you, but you defied its request. You refused your fate. Your case is very special and very intense. You have been given a wonderful opportunity, but it won't be easy." Zachary hoisted his axe onto his shoulder. "You mean almost dying because of that camera was an opportunity?" Abby corrected him. "Not me, but the system did. It knows better than anyone. In the grand plan of the multiverse, prophecies are worth paying attention to. The system hates the weak. You are just an ant before absolute power. Fail or give up and you will be punished." Zachary gritted his teeth, unable to hide his anger. "You mean I have to complete all the quests, kill all the monsters, and I don't have any other choice?" Abby offered sincere advice. "You are in a place very close to them. The system is watching you, don't let them down." It suddenly spun around as if searching for something. After a moment, Abby whispered into Zachary's ear, "Also, you should try to complete the quest within 1 month instead of 3. That would." It hadn't finished its sentence when it was hit by a strong electric shock. Zachary stared blankly after it. A cold screen appeared. "Base administration has been reclaimed by the system." The speed was so sudden that Zachary couldn't react. What the hell? Suddenly his head throbbed. The scene shifted to a lavish party with an ancient style. Orgaz raised his glass coldly, completely out of place with the surrounding atmosphere. Aaliyah approached alluringly. "You don't seem very happy, Mr. Orgaz." "Smile, today is a happy day," she said coyly. Orgaz gritted his teeth. "Happy about what?" Aaliyah raised her glass toward the hall. "Your grandfather was just awarded the title of infiltration leader. It is an honor that everyone among us wants to obtain." His gaze stopped on someone. Orgaz immediately frowned. It was an honor they had to kill to get. The other person glared back. She teased, "Then I guess you should spend your time preparing for the match instead of partying with everyone." Orgaz turned and left. "The match? I thought you understood me better than anyone else. I'm not fighting anyone. That game doesn't suit me. Just let those idiots be controlled." Suddenly, someone was affected by poison in their drink, collapsed to the floor, and the glass shattered. Immediately, people screamed in panic. "Who did this? Someone help him." Orgaz seemed to have known it all. They would throw themselves into the jaws of death. A beautiful early morning by a stream. The forest filled with strange creatures. The familiar monster was drinking water on the bank. The scene would be so peaceful if it were just a normal dog. A butterfly fluttered its wings toward the monster. It let the butterfly land on its nose. The insects brought by the system also looked very strange. The monster flicked its ear slightly, and the butterfly flew away. It sensed danger, so it fled in every direction. But Zachary was fast enough to chop its spine. The system immediately awarded a prize, received the title Demon Slayer, all stats plus 3% when fighting the demon race, plus 100 Nessus coins, level up. Zachary sat to rest right next to the monster's carcass. Finally, he had gotten used to these anomalies. Leveling up in this system wasn't too difficult. It seemed he still had a few spare points he could use to increase stats upon leveling up. He hadn't used the level 16 ones earlier. The system screen displayed. Level 17, Strength. 31 right arrow, 41 Dexterity, 25 right arrow, 31 Resistance, 27 right arrow, 32 Vitality, 27 right arrow, 38 Intelligence, 29 Wisdom, 29 Luck, 44 Free Stats. 0. He seriously considered, should I learn more about this world before choosing to raise stats? No, the fight with the snake earlier was because he was too careless. This time he had to be very wise. Zachary manipulated the screen continuously. I need to choose the stats that can help me the most right now. I'll leave the others for later. The parameters had changed significantly. He clearly understood the current situation. Life or death was just a breath away. Zachary lay down and let his mind wander. Only 25 days left in the first month. Was what Abby said true? There must be some reason it revealed it to him. He still remembered the sentence clearly. Also, you should try to complete the quest within 1 month instead of 3. Zachary squinted in thought. That was definitely why the system punished it. He couldn't help but exclaim at the injustice. Whether completed in 1 month or 3, the reward was the same. Life is truly suffering. However, he also realized he had a chance to explore ahead, while everyone else was still in the rookie village. Zachary took a sip of cool spring water. He couldn't waste any time. He drew his axe, hoisted it onto his shoulder, and continued to look for new targets. Right, gotta get back to work. Night fell very quickly. Zachary sat alone by the campfire, using monster meat as food. He took the opportunity to check his titles again. Almost all of his titles were related to being the first person to do something. He opened a series of screens, reviewing the titles. Born to Destroy, Surreal Reaper, Leviathan Slayer. Zachary took a big bite of meat. He quickly concluded, when building the base, he wasn't allowed to receive any support materials. That meant there was someone out there who had completed the quest before him, a defiant like him. Zachary couldn't help but wonder, if one snake could turn into such a powerful creature, then how strong were the others? He speculated while searching in the system. Surely the base would sell items to help him get stronger, or at least help him find his family. Zachary scrolled quickly through the screens. Everything had to be bought with Nessus coins. Each time he killed a demon dog, he only got 100 coins, and the snake got him a few hundred. He paused before an item, his eyes lighting up. It was the teleportation function. It could teleport people here, or better yet, he could teleport home and leave this island. But the price was truly enough to cost him his life. Teleportation cost 10 million Nessus coins. That number was like a rock crushing Zachary's head. 10 million Nessus coins. He considered and calculated seriously. He would have to kill a lot of monsters to afford it. There was no way he could kill monsters to earn that much. But what about the quests? He had identified the path ahead. Through the quest shop there were many options. If a rookie was already that strong, he had to try. He had to bet everything on it. He came to a conclusion. He had to save up Nessus coins. Zachary took another bite of meat. I have to use it for the right purpose. He decided to spend his money, and there were only 2 things he could afford. The Heavenly Eye skill for 3,000 Nessus. A stream of energy from the universe revealed basic biological information. It would help him identify information about the creature in front of him, hopefully pointing out an effective way to kill it. The compressed maternal energy gathering magic array for 3,000 Nessus. The array slowly collects cosmic energy from the surrounding area and converts it for the wearer. When wearing this necklace, he will absorb strength from monsters every 24 hours, increasing his energy while he sleeps. I might not be a follower of the righteous path, but there's nothing forbidding me from stealing their skills. After a moment of meditation, Zachary stood up, gripping his axe again. This is taking too long. Better get back to butchering a few more. From that point on, he spent most of his time hunting. Whenever he found prey, he would easily take it down. The same went for when they found him. Rain or shine, Zachary never rested. These footprints had only just appeared. With every battle, he learned more. How to swing his axe with the proper form, how to block an attack, how to use his new skills. He mastered the use of the Heavenly Eye. So you're a demon dog, huh? A blue screen appeared above the monster's head. Species, demon dog, faction, demons, title, Azrazak Legion. He set up many temporary shelters around the island in case he couldn't make it back to his base in time. Zachary's life became a repetitive cycle. Hunting, fighting, killing. He had killed hundreds, even tens of thousands of them. Every time he leveled up, he had to kill even more. His strength increased significantly, until the point where the demon dogs were no longer worthy of being hunted by him. They used to be prey, now they were just target practice. Level 23. Strength 59, Agility 39, Resistance 42, Vitality 48, Intelligence 29, Wisdom 29, Luck 44. Less than 5 days left until the end of the first month. At the same time, at Orgaz's luxurious mansion, Rydell stormed into the office. Orgaz cheerily raised his glass. Rydell, it's good to see you. Tell me, how far along is the invasion landing? Rydell furrowed his brows, losing his patience. You know the answer. If it's such a bother for you to read the reports, he sneered, not caring in the slightest. Then what are you going to do about working under me? A commander's job is to issue orders. Come, sit down, you look so tense. Rydell flatly refused. I beg your pardon, but I will stand while I speak, sir. He glared at the glass of wine in Orgaz's hand. Are you drunk? Orgaz gritted his teeth and growled. Why are you rambling? Is there anything else I need to do? Our unit has stopped invasion operations for weeks now. Rydell suddenly flashed a cunning, grim smile. He pushed a report forward. You're right. Then sign this for me and you can do whatever you like. Orgaz immediately took out a pen. Your cousin Kevin is taking the post of expedition commander. Why not? Rydell left satisfied. Thank you, Commander. I am certain your orders will be carried out immediately. As soon as Rydell left, Orgaz broke into a devious grin. In just a few weeks, I'll be out of this dog kennel for good. Back with Zachary on the deserted island, he carefully tracked the signs on the ground. His eyes were those of a seasoned predator. He found a demon dog that was yawning and stretching. Zachary gripped his axe tight. I'm still not paying enough attention to my surroundings. I didn't spot it in time. It sensed the danger and stood up. Zachary was completely stunned. What? How did it? Suddenly, a giant creature lunged out and tore the demon dog to pieces in an instant. It was 5 times the size of a normal one. Zachary didn't dare to breathe. It tore into the carcass with brutal frenzy. The demon hound sniffed around, searching. It abandoned its half-eaten meal and paced back and forth. Unexpectedly, the demon hound accelerated and lunged toward his location. The demon hound's eyes widened in surprise. Because Zachary had already bolted, he sprinted with all his might. What the hell is that thing? Harold, it's even more dangerous than those other monsters. Am I supposed to kill it? Its claw is as big as my arm. He quickly made a decision. He had to return to base. He needed a concrete plan to kill it. A crackling fire lighting up the night immediately put Zachary on guard. 2 different species of monsters were communicating about something. He was shocked. Are they talking? The scene was truly bizarre. Zachary carefully hid behind a large tree to eavesdrop. What the hell? The bipedal creature is roasting meat. He concluded that one looked more intelligent. Did they come looking for me? Will they reveal the location of my base? He quickly activated his Heavenly Eye skill. Just then, they noticed Zachary's presence. Species Imp, Faction Demons, Title, Azrazak Legion. Species Demon Hound, Faction Demons, Title, Azrazak Legion. He immediately jumped to his feet. Damn it, it saw me. The imp quickly launched a dark orb. Zachary realized the danger was imminent. It saw me, he cursed under his breath. Damn it. Zachary put all his strength into clashing with the imp. It quickly bounced behind him. Zachary's eyes remained vigilant. He felt another threat nearby. The demon hound suddenly launched a frontal attack. It overpowered him in both strength and stamina. Its sharp teeth were craving prey. Zachary struggled to push it away. Get off me. Then he quickly extinguished the flames burning on his shoulder. What kind of fire is this? Looking at it, it seemed like any other flame. But in reality, it was gnawing at his soul. The imp on the side was extremely excited, while the demon hound looked at him like a tasty piece of meat. Zachary suddenly realized the danger of his situation. There were 2 monsters, and he only had a broken axe left. If I can't take down these 2 monsters, I'm not worthy of the opportunities I've been given. He lunged forward, taking the initiative. The imp simultaneously cast magic. Zachary dodged while nimbly moving forward. The demon hound jumped, opening its huge mouth. He quickly grabbed it by its body. The demon hound was still bewildered. Zachary let out a roar to gather his strength, and then pinned the monster to the ground, after which he delivered a terrifying punch to the demon hound. He was using pure physical strength. Every strike carried shocking power. He drove his fist straight into its throat. The demon hound was nearly defeated. The imp wore a grotesque, creepy smile. It ambushed Zachary from behind. His arm felt like it had frozen, and his whole body was paralyzed by pain. Zachary's mind was a mess of thoughts. Back then, he only thought it was luck. The flames gradually engulfed him. The demon hound, not yet defeated, wanted to finish him off immediately. Galactic energy, a substance that separates the multiverse. Ever since the system arrived, fate had wanted him dead from the very beginning. But this was also the moment when the galactic energy flowed within him. The compressed maternal energy gathering magic array only taught him how to sense it, while his personal skills helped him know how to use it. Everything depended on him learning and controlling it himself. The tongue was blocked by a strange magic. Zachary's eyes were bloodshot and filled with crimson veins. He easily grabbed the demon hound's tail. You shouldn't have broken my axe. The imp also realized something was wrong. It gritted its teeth in anger and didn't stop throwing flames at Zachary. He didn't hesitate, swung the demon hound in a circle, and let go as if throwing a ball. His eyes were completely devoid of warmth. The imp was just as bloodthirsty. Both of them collided like cannonballs, slamming into each other and exploding. Day 30, the final day of the first month. Wood chips scattered into the water. The imp and the demon hound floated on the river, the current striking the rocks with rhythmic force. Zachary was diligently carving something. He admired the results for a moment. That should do it. It would be better if I reached level 25 and picked a character class instead of doing this. But someone said I should finish the mission within a month. Even if I can't finish everything, that doesn't mean I give up. Anyway, the system is very risky to get rewards. I'll probably get another mission. He was extremely confident for the upcoming trip. Time to kill the second herald. Elsewhere, a hand rested on a railing. Another person appeared beside them. Orgaz offered a polite smile. Seems like a month has passed and we're still nowhere, right? Rydell didn't hesitate to reply. Yes, that's correct. He didn't stop but continued. But this is only the beginning. When the portal protocol is complete and put into use, we won't be able to meet the others in the guild anymore, and the real work begins. Orgaz looked down at the chasm and the massive horde of demons and sighed. How interesting. I can't wait any longer. Zachary was furiously fighting, engaging the monsters in hand-to-hand combat himself. He was blown away by a single strike. Zachary immediately got up to continue the fight. His gaze could not help but darken slightly. The massive monster in front of him was called a Vul, level 45. Zachary suddenly recalled childhood memories of fishing by the river with his dad. He turned to him and said, "You know, Zachary, every species of animal has its own special ability. Birds can fly, rabbits can run fast." The sound of the fishing rod drew both their attention. "Dad, I caught something." The rod was pulled taut. Zachary's father quietly added, "Fish are very sharp." He reeled the line in calmly, "But they don't know how to use traps or bait like we do. Even Stone Age humans knew how to use spears. The point here is that we catch them because we are the more advanced species. Because catching them helps us discover the extent of our own capabilities." 2 hours before the battle with the Herald, Zachary was making a trap. "You're right, Dad." He looked at his accomplishment. "I have plenty of spears here." Back to the battle, Vul was charging aggressively. Zachary became even more alert in his defense. He also realized his own strength. "I can't use pure physical strength to defeat it. The power gap between the two sides is immense." Vul lunged fast, trying to maul its opponent. Just one hit from it and he would die. Dodging the blow, Zachary thought of a plan. "I mustn't let it touch me." Zachary used a physical attack. A stream of red blood spurted from Vul, causing it to become even more aggressive. He looked on with golden-lit eyes, capable of channeling galactic energy into every part of his body. Zachary's arms bulged with muscular veins as he enhanced his physical strength. Vul didn't care and kept lunging forward like a mad beast. "Come and get me." Zachary ran quickly to lure it. "Come on." But he wasn't the chosen one. Galactic energy was limited, so he had to use it wisely, without allowing for a single mistake. Vul extended its long, sharp claws. Zachary's entire body was under extreme tension. "Come on." He tried to channel all his strength into his legs. His body suddenly launched high into the air. "Control the energy." Zachary looked down at the monster and muttered to himself, "Kill it." He swung his axe straight down with all his might. In another turn of events, a group of demons appeared before a massive rift. Advancing step by step, Orgaz glanced around and asked, "Where is Rydell?" One subordinate quickly replied, "He has already passed through the teleportation gate, Commander." His gaze flickered toward the back for a moment, but a second later, he returned to his confident demeanor. "But no one else will be able to follow him." Orgaz flashed a mysterious and inscrutable smile. Meanwhile, the fierce battle in the forest continued. Zachary cursed in frustration. "Damn it, I've overused it. My body can't accumulate any more galactic energy. If I push it, my energy channels will snap." The monster was slowly closing in, but he couldn't stop. Zachary spotted a trap not far away. Almost there, the monster lunged forward in pain. Both of them had been playing a game of cat and mouse for a while. Zachary's eyes flashed. He didn't stop, but instead accelerated even faster. The monster was still hot on his heels. Zachary jumped at the perfect moment. He broke his steady path. The monster couldn't stop in time due to its momentum, and let out a fierce roar, its massive feet digging deep into the ground. Its eyes turned a glowing red with rage. Zachary wasn't entirely certain. Did it work? The monster fell into the trap, dying slowly in agony. Its eyes widened in terror. The system issued a notification. Level up. Reached level 25. Quest complete. Class selection feature unlocked. Zachary couldn't help but feel overjoyed. I did it. After minutes of fatigue, he finally dared to relax. I did it. Can you see that? That damn system I killed. His words were cut short by a violent tremor. A pair of glowing red eyes appeared in the darkness. Zachary saw it clearly and swore, damn it. He was completely surrounded by a pack of beasts. In another castle, a soldier trembled as he looked at the person in front of him. Wait. Orgaz swung his blade, decapitating the man above him. A dull thud echoed. He easily dispatched the small fries. A companion asked, puzzled, how much longer do we have to wear these stupid armors? Orgaz sheathed his sword and replied calmly, until I say so. Namies, the other one whined. Seriously, Orgaz, the soldier said with his dying breath. No, no way. Aaliyah's seductive voice chimed in, including me too, and the answer was no exception, especially for her. Orgaz commanded sternly, I don't want anyone to know about your presence. The fewer who know, the better. Another person handling the remnants reminded him. Think carefully, Orgaz. We won't receive protection from him anymore if we step through that gate. The remnant was tortured to death. He remained extremely calm, as if brushing off a speck of dust with nothing left. Orgaz glanced with cold, empty eyes and said, then just do it. I'm sick of this damn guild. The new planet seems much more interesting and safer than this place. His brows knit tightly together. All that remained was to meet the people on that planet. Zachary was struggling to escape the monsters. Damn it, they're everywhere. He glanced back, feeling even more desperate. Why didn't Abby tell me that killing a messenger would summon every damn monster on this island? This is bad. My internal energy is running low. I used up all my energy fighting that messenger. There's no way I can escape from this pack of monsters. They're going to tear me to shreds. Just then, a monster jumped forward to attack head-on. Zachary reacted just in time, escaping danger in the blink of an eye. He was at a disadvantage, and in an extremely dangerous situation. Zachary tried to feel his body for a moment. His internal energy had recovered slightly after killing the other monster. Not much, almost nothing. But if I can kill them continuously, if I can absorb energy at the same rate I consume it, Zachary flashed a triumphant smile. Then I won't have to run from them anymore. Thinking this, he stopped abruptly and turned to face the aggressive monsters head-on. Zachary quickly finished one off and dove into the crowd of monsters, swinging his axe. I just need to kill them all. Elsewhere, a girl radiated intense killing intent. Rydell sighed silently. It doesn't matter what's holding him back. In Orgaz's absence, I am the commander. He immediately issued an order. Kevin, organize scouting parties. Something killed the messenger Urkaz. I want to know what that thing is. Kevin reported almost immediately that it was done. Rydell slammed his hand on the table, announcing, good, move on to the plan for our outpost. As soon as possible, we need to be upgraded. At that moment, information was just relayed. Someone was passing through the teleportation gate. The people in the room couldn't help but stir. Has Orgaz finally decided to show up? Who could it be? Steady footsteps entered the room. Orgaz and his men walked in proudly. His gaze stopped on the person opposite him. Rydell was no exception. Inside the forest, Zachary was gradually becoming exhausted. His arm bore a deep wound, and a patch of skin was missing from his leg. The blood-stained axe dripped with every drop. His voice trembled slightly. I need to find one of my important supply sources. Zachary dragged his weary feet. That tree. He reached out and grabbed a branch, then swung his body up quickly. His perspective shifted, and the position was safer. Zachary was completely drained after a day of fighting. Morning dawned quickly. He slowly woke up, dazed. It's been over a month already. The world still hasn't ended. What am I saying? It ended last month. He adjusted his gear slightly, then quickly slid down to the base of the tree. Zachary tried to feel a bit. The speed of his physical recovery was truly amazing. Even so, he still hadn't fully recovered to 100%. This journey will be very long, but once I get there, I'll be able to choose my class. A small sound suddenly rang out. Zachary's eyes were full of vigilance. Is someone following me? A demon soldier was scouting the surroundings. He slowly realized the guy's identity. Is that a demon? The demon sat down and muttered something. Silent kai virus visera tajit van melanva, Orgaz. The next second, Zachary lunged out like the wind. A dull thud echoed through the forest. He held his weapon firmly and said politely, I'll take this, thanks. Then Zachary hoisted the demon onto his shoulder and threw it into the woods. Night fell quickly. The demon soldier was splashed with water to wake up. He was startled and quickly shouted, Vario, vow. Zachary stopped his words with the sharp blade of his axe. He greeted him very politely. Greetings. The demon stared at him blankly. Human. Zachary slowly managed to gather a few details. So you can understand what I'm saying. Then tell me how many of you are invading my world. The demon's status board appeared. Azun level 33 faction, Azrazak. He didn't say much and unleashed a threat. The demon was fuming with murderous rage. Azun spoke as if cursing the human. Zachary swore, "Damn it." He quickly ran away from the sudden explosion. Tattered rags fell, the ground was scorched red, and the surroundings were almost heavily affected. Did he absorb a massive amount of energy just to blow himself up, just so I couldn't pry any information out of him? Zachary looked at the remnants and muttered with admiration, "That's surprising. These demons will be very troublesome." Zachary was still huddled in the treetop, carefully observing whether the surrounding area was safe after the chaotic explosion. Several hours had passed since the demon scout turned himself into a human firework. Fortunately, no other reinforcements appeared to check the mess. Zachary jumped down to his camp, feeling a bit bitter because the scout exploded and took all the loot with him. Our protagonist was currently only wearing tattered cloaks and some bandages. He really hoped the demon would drop decent armor instead of leaving a giant hole. Zachary stared at the scorched earth, thinking that if he had known it would self-destruct, he would have looted its pockets first. He recalled the fanatic look in the demon's eyes. A guy ready to blow himself up just to get even with the locals. The explosion was loud enough to wake the neighbors, but fortunately, all his neighbors were either dead or in another dimension. The only bright spot was the shiny new axe. His old one was now just like a dull butter knife. Furthermore, the final major milestone had finally arrived. Zachary reached level 25, the divine number that unlocks power upgrades. A faint smile appeared on his lips. Survival began to feel like he was starting to win. But before opening the superpower gift box, there was still some chores to do. He opened the interface and bought the F-rank small-scale illusion array he now possessed. With a heavy thud, a large, crude crate appeared on the ground in front of him. He pried it open and saw a set of glowing purple stakes, noticing they were quite different from the last illusion array. Zachary moved around the perimeter of the camp, carefully planting the enchanted stakes into the ground. He drove the final stake into the ground, completing the circle. He stepped back to admire his work, eager to see how well this new defense system would function. The illusion array shimmered to life, and the stakes began to emit crackling purple energy beams. A powerful wave of magic power erupted from the center, sweeping over Zachary. As the system confirmed activation, a shimmering purple dome expanded until it covered the entire camp, trailer and all. From the outside, the clearing in the forest seemed to ripple and vanish from existence, replaced by an illusion of the intact, undisturbed forest. Zachary touched the shimmering boundary, amazed at how his entire base was now perfectly camouflaged. He breathed a sigh of relief, knowing he could finally focus without worrying about wandering demons. Having dealt with security, he focused his full attention on the main event, class selection. A blue notification appeared, congratulating him on reaching level 25 and asking if he was ready to choose. Zachary didn't hesitate for a second, tapping the yes button with a confident smile. His excitement was cut short by a red error screen demanding 6,000 Nexus coins to buy the Nexus connection button. Zachary cursed the system's greed, realizing this would wipe out almost all the coins he had earned with blood and sweat. He gritted his teeth and confirmed the transaction, praying this process wouldn't reveal his location. A beam of light shone on the ground, and a giant glowing button crystal appeared in the middle of the camp. He approached the strange monument, unsure if it was an interface or something more permanent. He tapped the side of the pedestal with the head of his axe, triggering another notification. The crystal flashed, and a new window appeared in his vision. He narrowed his eyes as the system notified him he had 5 distinct class options. A predatory smile spread across his face. The moment he had been waiting for had finally arrived. The first option was Warrior, a common class for those proficient in basic close-quarters combat. Next was Acolyte, another common choice focused on using basic magic elements. The third was Marine, a rarer class specifically designed for naval combat at sea. Then there was Demon Hunter, a rarer class specialized in locating and eliminating demonic threats. Finally, he saw Hatchetman, a rare class described as the lumberjack of the endless enemy forest. Zachary took a moment to process the list, satisfied that the options were more diverse than he expected. He noted that all started at F rank, which seemed to be the baseline for everyone in this new world. The fact that they could all be upgraded meant this choice would shape his future development. He knew this was a massive decision, and he immediately decided to skip the common warrior and acolyte options. In his mind, choosing a common class when rare options were available was a complete waste. He considered Demon Hunter, but worried that specializing too soon could come back to haunt him. He didn't like the idea of becoming useless if he ran into something that wasn't a demon. He needed a path that allowed him to deal with any threat the world threw at him, from bugs to monsters. The Marine class was easily dismissed. He had no interest in being stuck on a boat in the middle of nowhere. Only one option remained that was truly reasonable for his survival. He believed that the system would reward those who dared to take the biggest risks, and hatchetman was the rare reward he deserved to receive. He wondered if it would lock him into using only axes, but with his current equipment, that wasn't a major issue. Zachary chuckled to himself, realizing that choosing a rare class wasn't just a smart move. It was a huge survival advantage. He squeezed the glowing Nexus node, feeling the primal power vibrate through the crystal and into his bandaged hands. "Hatchetman," he declared firmly, his eyes burning with intensity as a blinding flash signaled his commitment. The system chimed, confirming his new identity and binding him permanently to the Hatchetman class. Notifications flooded his vision, granting him the full of class and rarefied being titles, each boosting his core stats. But one final notification left him stunned. He was named the world's first Trailblazer, a title that granted 5 extra points to every stat as his body erupted with golden energy. The raw energy of the stat increase coursed through his muscles and veins, and he gritted his teeth, enduring the overwhelming sensation as the system forcibly expanded his physical limits. As the system listed his comprehensive growth, Zachary collapsed to his knees, his body struggling to adapt to the sudden surge of power. He lay still for a moment, steam rising from his overheated skin as he gasped for air, trying to recover. He lifted his head, one eye flashing with a predatory golden glint, realizing just how far ahead of the rest of the world he now was. He opened his status screen, eyes widening as he saw his strength stat had skyrocketed to a staggering 92, and he stared at his hands in awe, calculating that his strength alone had jumped by 28 points in a single moment. He clenched his bandaged arm, and his muscles bulged enough to create a sonic boom through sheer physical force. A cold, dangerous smile played on his lips as he prepared to dive deeper into his newfound capabilities. He opened the class menu and was greeted by a list of incredibly powerful-looking skills, though each one was locked behind frustrating combat trials. Zachary stood tall, golden sparks continuing to dance around him, knowing that even with a rare class, the system wouldn't give him anything for free. He gripped his axe tighter, accepting that he would have to kill thousands more enemies if he wanted to master this new path. His silhouette loomed dark in the forest, as he swore to show the invaders that there was a monster in this world far scarier than them. With 2 of the 5 required kills under his belt, Zachary turned his focus to the remaining heralds and their general. To the demons, this invasion wasn't a tragedy. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. True, things almost went south due to the foolish Ogress mistakes, but the tribes had finally put more competent individuals in command, like Kevorin, who was clearly enjoying the perks of his new position. While the monsters he brought did the dirty work of clearing the island, Kevorin just leaned back and watched the show. He honestly thought nothing on this island could touch him, while Zachary remained in the middle of the woods, not looking like a threat, but just some guy doing chores. Kevorin was busy whining about a month of preparation time being wasted due to the general's tactics. Knowing they had to hurry before other invasions on the planet started snatching up all the good loot, but sacrificing 10,000 slaves seemed to have paid off in heaven's eyes. Kevorin wore the expression of someone who had just won the lottery. His scouts had just brought back news that made everything worth it. Deep in the mountains, they had discovered a massive vein of Nexus crystal, a treasure like that was worth more than most could imagine. It was a fortune greater than what the clan elders even possessed. As the head of reconnaissance, Kevorin was the one in charge of discovering this treasure. And he had a little secret. Not every shiny thing he found would end up in his superior's hands. It felt too good. He ordered his subordinates to set up camp because he was tired of walking. He found a spot to watch the sunset and asked Lyra what she thought, but she was still trying to adapt to the planet's bizarre weather. Grom had already set out a lavish table, complete with pastries and a red tablecloth. Kevorin invited Lyra to sit, telling her to drop the formalities and just call him by his name. Lyra was slightly surprised that he was taking a lunch break right at the start of a major invasion. Kevorin just flicked an insect away, as if it wasn't worth noticing, bragging that he always made time for the truly important things in life. But he quickly grew irritated when more mosquitoes buzzed around their fancy meal, having gone to great lengths to convince Lyra to join this trip, and he didn't want it ruined. When a fly landed directly on his food, he barked at Grom to do something about the pests. He called for Grom again, but the silence made him freeze. Suddenly, Lyra gasped in horror and reached for her bow. The atmosphere shifted entirely. From above, Zachary lunged down and smeared a guard's blood onto the ground. Lyra screamed, "It's a native!" Kevoran jumped to his feet, his hands glowing with energy. "Kill him!" Kevoran roared as an arrow whistled through the air. But Zachary was already moving, reaching for another blade to finish the job. He continued his assault, moving faster than any human should have been able to. Lyra's arrow was split in two by Zachary. Kevoran drew a massive black sword, prepared to finish this pest once and for all. The collision between the sword and Zachary's axe sent green sparks flying everywhere. Metal ground against metal, as the two locked eyes amidst the chaos. Kevoran just sneered, seemingly amused that this planet actually had a human worth fighting, boasting loudly about crushing them like all the other insects infesting this planet. But Zachary was pushing back hard, even as dark energy began to swirl around them. Grom watched in shock as this native held his own against Kevoran. Two demons lunged at Zachary, trying to overwhelm him with numbers. But Zachary managed to leap out of the danger zone just in time. Zachary didn't hesitate, throwing a devastating punch that sent Grom meeting his ancestors in an instant. The impact so great it sounded like the demon's armor was about to shatter. He was sent flying backward by the horrific recoil, as the air seemed to crack when the magical reaction from the demon armor exploded. Grom slammed into the ground in agony, the impact knocking the wind out of him and rendering him unconscious instantly. Kevoran didn't waste a second, charging forward with a slash that cracked the ground where Zachary had just been standing. He was genuinely confused as to how a mere native could keep up with him. Zachary tightened his grip on his axe, the wood creaking under the pressure as he prepared for the next round. Dark energy began to coil around Kevoran, his power spiking as he realized he was in big trouble. A blast of amplified dark energy shot through Zachary, causing him to scream in absolute agony. While he was distracted, a purple-fletched arrow whistled in from the side, striking home and burying itself deep in Zachary's shoulder. He gasped for air, the combination of shock and the wound starting to take its toll. Kevoran loomed over him, sword raised high, ready to finish it. Zachary looked up, eyes wide as he realized just how much danger he was in. But he still managed to bring his weapon up to block. Sparks flew as the two weapons locked. Kevoran couldn't believe it. This planet had only been integrated a month ago, yet this guy was this strong. Zachary reached out and grabbed Kevoran by the head, causing the demon to let out a choked sound. Zachary's hand was like a pair of pliers, his raw strength terrifying the scout noble. He swung his axe in a wide arc, aiming to end the match right there. But Zachary realized he couldn't land the killing blow if the woman nearby kept pestering him with incessant arrows. Zachary paused his attack, tilting his head just in time to let an arrow graze his cheek, knowing that one moment of distraction with the demon in front of him would mean death from those arrows. Zachary jumped back to create distance, breathing heavily. He wiped the blood from his face, never taking his eyes off his opponent. The two stood still for a moment, panting under the blood-red sky. Grom was still clutching his stomach in the background, clearly unconscious. Kevoran admitted, "You're quite impressive for a lowly human. I've heard of humans crawling up from the bottom of society. Outcasts, trash that wasn't even allowed to survive the integration phase. Those too weak to even qualify to step onto the path of cultivation. Small and meaningless, like the mosquitoes I loathe so much." Kevoran explained that people like Zachary were the ones who fought until even heaven itself had to acknowledge them. "We call them defiers, those who challenge fate. And it seems you have more potential than most of them." Kevoran continued, "It's a pity that someone like you has to die here." But because Zachary dared to challenge him, Kevoran had no choice but to bring his weapon down. He swung the massive sword horizontally, forcing Zachary to duck to avoid death. Zachary slid across the rocky ground, trying to keep his distance from that dark energy. He threw himself forward, his axe clashing against Kevoran's armor once more. Zachary gritted his teeth, knowing that one more mistake would mean his death. Zachary's axe slammed into Kevoran's chest, but the impact only created a massive shockwave without budging the demon. Kevoran stood firm as a mountain, his patterned armor glowing as it absorbed nearly the entire force of the blow. Zachary was thrown back by the magical recoil, sliding across the rocky terrain and cursing the demon's superior armor. Refusing to stay down, Kevoran roared and charged again while Zachary prepared a lethal counterattack. As the demon rushed forward, Zachary thought fast, grabbing the entire banquet table and hurling it straight into Kevoran's face, disrupting his rhythm and sending him into a blind rage. The demon's face twisted in fury and sudden confusion as he realized this human wasn't easily defeated. A heavy impact sent Kevoran staggering back through the ruins of his own camp. Not giving him a chance to react, the protagonist circled behind him and then launched another thunderous blow, sending his body flying like a cannonball backward. Seeing his commander in danger, Aizen cried out in alarm as the battlefield was shrouded in smoke. A horrific collision echoed through the clearing, as a magical explosion leveled a nearby tree. Kevorin barked at Aizen to focus, but that brief moment of distraction was all Zachary needed. Emerging from the dust cloud like a vengeful ghost, Zachary swung his weapon down in a fatal arc. Kevorin's eyes widened in sheer terror, cold sweat pouring down his forehead as he witnessed the brutal death of his subordinate. Zachary slammed his axe into the ground with bone-crushing force. The impact shook the entire area. Kevorin executed a sweep kick, throwing the protagonist off balance, and then grabbed him, pinning him tightly to the ground. They grappled on the ground, each fighting for the advantage to land the killing blow. Kevorin held the upper hand, but Zachary retaliated by driving his fingers into Kevorin's face with primal, savage strength. He squeezed tight, letting out a growl from deep in his throat. Kevorin's agonizing scream was muffled by the crushing hand, and in desperation, Kevorin shrieked for Lyra to shoot Zachary, not caring about his own safety in the face of death. Kevorin pulled out a glowing short blade, the cold steel promising death. With a brutal thrust, he drove the blade straight into Zachary's side. Zachary's agonizing scream echoed out, leading the demon to believe that final victory was within his grasp. His eyes locked on a single goal: finish off the mortal pinned beneath him. Zachary began to panic. His hand fumbled over the ground, searching for a weapon. Kevorin, despite being drenched in blood, continued to taunt Zachary with manic laughter, mocking whether this was truly the limit of a defier's strength. Zachary's hand finally gripped the handle of his axe, his resolve hardening with every breath. From above, the demon sneered, intoxicated by the advantage he imagined he had, his face a mask of empty arrogance, completely oblivious that they were both standing on the precipice of a deadly stalemate. Zachary silenced him forever with one final, bone-crushing strike, as a level-up notification flashed in the corner of his vision. The battle ended, leaving Zachary gasping for air amidst the corpses of his enemies. He tried to stand, but the arrow in his shoulder and his sheer exhaustion made him stumble. Lyra stepped out of the shadows, her bow already drawn and aimed straight at Zachary's head. The demonic archer stood cold and ready, her eyes promising a quick end for the human intruder. Zachary took another arrow, the impact making him cry out in pain as he struggled to maintain his balance. He looked at her with silent fury, his eyes burning with an unquenchable defiance. Lyra warned him to stay still, the pain of losing Kevorin stoking the hatred in her heart. Zachary looked back at her, his expression grim as he prepared for whatever was coming next. And in a single quick cut, the position of the blade shifted straight from Zachary's side into the center of Lyra's forehead. And as the adrenaline began to fade, it only left the agonizing pain from his wounds. Despite the danger, Zachary began looting Kevorin's corpse, hopping to find gear to help him survive the next encounter. Zachary checked the small, decorative bag he'd taken from Kevorin's body, nodding at its unexpected weight. When he opened the bag, a surge of magical energy exploded, bathing him in a warm, golden light. Looking inside, he realized it was a spatial treasure containing a massive, chaotic mix of belongings, the bag seeming to defy physics by holding an entire room's worth of items inside its tiny frame. Zachary found all sorts of things, from fruit baskets to high-end furniture, making him wonder if the demon was out for a picnic. Amidst the mundane clutter, he discovered a collection of glowing, multicolored crystals that looked very important. The system informed him they were F-rank Nexus crystals, packed with primal cosmic energy. The interface explained that these crystals were essential for leveling up and recovering after battle. Lifting one high, Zachary could feel the primal power vibrating inside the gem, like a miniature star in the palm of his hand. He checked his active quests and saw similar crystals listed as rewards for his fight against the invasion. Zachary began absorbing the crystal's energy, his body drawing in the power to heal the wounds from his previous battle. Half an hour later, Zachary had scavenged the best items from Kevorin's equipment, claiming the dark magic armor for himself. He tied the precious spatial pouch to his belt, an important trophy from his first major victory. A cold, satisfied smile appeared on his face as he assessed his new gear, feeling much better prepared. Although he stood in full armor made from demon loot, he decided Kevorin's giant sword was too cumbersome to use. He opened the system menu, checked his quest progress again, and evaluated. The quest progress was currently going quite well. Although a month had passed, the invasion resistance master still showed 0-3. Did he really have to conquer this invasion first? His axe mastery level wasn't very high either. It would be great if it counted the enemies he handled before accepting this quest. The road ahead was still very long. He had already finished off Gwilgi and the Barghest messenger. That left only the imps and one other type he hadn't encountered yet, along with the leader of this invasion. He didn't know where the imp messenger was hiding and didn't even know what the remaining messenger was. So for now, there was only one choice left. The invasion leader. Let's see how you feel when your own territory is invaded. Panic erupted at the gate as the demon soldiers scrambled to respond. They had finally realized the chaos Zachary had left behind outside. The gate guard squad, completely oblivious, rushed blindly toward the source of the chaos. They couldn't even imagine what was attacking them. A backup squad rushed through the teleportation gate, swords drawn and ready. They hoped to meet an army, but only silence awaited them. The leading soldier slid to a halt, his arrogance vanishing instantly. The scene ahead was more horrific than any report. He looked around in awe. The efficient and brutal slaughter left him speechless. Bodies lay scattered across the ground, twisted and broken where they fell. Zachary retreated into the shadows, breathing heavily. His axe mastery was increasing, but attacking the general head-on would still be suicide. He looked down at his body, covered in mud and dried blood. Raw power wouldn't get him through that gate. Every inch of his body was exhausted. If he tried to break down the door now, he would be torn to shreds before seeing the general's face. With thousands of demons on the island, he needed a new plan. Picking them off one by one would take forever. He shifted his gaze toward the mountain. A stream of demons was moving continuously between the outpost and a cave higher up. Whatever they were doing, there couldn't be anything good. It looked like they were scouting or mining something important. While a few wandered around, the main force remained behind the walls, busy building a new city. Zachary observed them from the shadows. He wondered if they were just mindless products of the system sent to challenge him. But as they laughed and chatted with each other, the reality hit home. They weren't NPCs, they were real living creatures. He almost wondered if they even wanted to be here. Maybe they were trapped in this game just like him. His eyes hardened as he pushed that thought aside. It didn't matter who they were or what they felt. They were on his island, desecrating his home. Empathy had no place in the struggle for survival. The only way he would talk to the invaders was through the blade of his axe. That was the only diplomacy they understood. He leaned against a tree to steady himself. He still had a family to find and a world to reclaim. If he had to become a monster to save his people, then so be it. He had already crossed that line. He decided to shift his target. Hunting the remaining heralds would weaken the general's control before the final decisive battle. When they died, he would return to take the head of the invasion. He turned and vanished into the forest. Tracking them wasn't easy. He spent many days crossing the island, checking every nook and cranny and vantage point. He continued his grim work, his axe mastery slowly increasing with every kill. Nearly 200 down. The hunt took him to the rugged coastline where he slaughtered everything in his path. The count continued to rise. He raided narrow, cramped caves, leaving a trail of bodies behind. He was nearly halfway to his goal. Zachary hauled himself up a steep cliff, his muscles screaming with the effort. They had to be hiding somewhere. He finally reached the summit. The wind whipped at his cloak. The climb was worth it for the view. He paused for a moment to breathe and wipe the sweat from his forehead. He had been looking in the wrong place before. From up here, the entire island unfolded before his eyes. The red pillar of light of the outpost looked tiny from this height. A fleeting movement caught his eye. He squinted, focusing on a nearby mountainside. A giant beast was perched on a branch, its body cracked with glowing orange energy. It looked ancient and dangerous. Zachary stepped into the clearing, drawing its attention. He had found what he needed. The stone monkey let out a terrifying roar as Zachary used his judgment eyes to scan its stats. It belonged to the Azrazak tribe. He finally confirmed the last two heralds were a small demon and this pack of monkeys. It was time to get to work. The creature roared again, its mouth glowing with fiery heat. It wasn't alone. The whole pack lunged down the ravine, their heavy footsteps shaking the ground. Zachary didn't hesitate. He lunged forward to confront the first monster. A powerful slash sent the monkey flying. Zachary's mastery level soared with every swing. He slashed through another one, the count hitting 899. He was approaching a massive milestone, and he could feel a change coming. Zachary stopped as the last beast fell. These stone monkeys were very territorial. That was the reason he hadn't seen them until now. If he wanted to find the next heralds, he had to push deeper into the heart of the mountain. Piercing screeches echoed through the ravine. More were coming, and they sounded very angry. The entire pack of creatures lunged down the cliff, their heavy bodies shaking the earth. They roared in unison, a wall of stone and fury charging straight at him. They clearly didn't like strangers. Zachary gripped his axe and readied himself. He was fully prepared to see what these monkeys were really made of. He had been fighting non-stop since the system appeared, stuck in a loop of blood and steel. He tore through the first wave. The count passed 900. Unconscious violence began to become his second nature. At first, the system meant nothing to him, just data and death. 921-939. He was so close he could taste it. His mind drifted to his friends and family. Was anyone still alive in the world he used to know? But the more he thought, the more he realized the old world was gone. Now there was only the hunt. The more he fought, the more everything began to fall into place. He was becoming something else. Every kill brought him closer to a truth he couldn't quite grasp yet. 982995998. 999. Only one left. A blinding burst of light erupted as he hit the mark. 1000. He did it, Axe Mastery 1000. The world around him dissolved into blinding white. This was no longer the mountain. Zachary found himself standing on a floating island. A majestic white city appeared in front of him. He was in an illusion. He looked down from the edge of the cliff, his eyes widening in shock. This was far beyond anything he had ever seen. Below him, an army of stone colossi and winged warriors marched through the clouds. It was a scene from legends. Each soldier radiated an overwhelming aura. He was just a worm compared to them. Zachary stared, paralyzed by the sheer scale. He could feel primal energy vibrating in the air. A figure appeared in the middle of the island. A man stood calmly amidst the chaos. It was a bald man in a humble cloak, holding a simple iron axe. He looked like an ordinary woodcutter, but his aura was immense. The mysterious woodcutter took a deep breath, focusing everything into a single point. He was preparing for something. He raised his axe high above his head. Purple lightning crackled around his body as he channeled terrifying power. With a slow, deliberate slash downward, he swung. The movement was intentional, carrying the weight of the entire world. The world shattered. A massive purple energy rift tore through the sky and earth, splitting reality itself. Zachary watched in silence. This wasn't just a slash. It was the fundamental laws of the universe being rewritten. The shockwave rippled through the illusion, throwing everything into chaos. Its force was unimaginable. A system notification flashed in his mind. Tao Seed absorbed gravity. He had achieved a breakthrough. The illusion exploded in a final burst of light, and Zachary was thrown back into the real world. A massive crater remained where he had stood. Zachary gasped, his hands trembling as he gripped his axe. The power he had just witnessed was still flowing through his veins. Zachary leaned his back against a tree, completely drained. Around him lay the shattered corpses of the monkeys. Tao, he had heard of it in legends and myths, but never thought it could be real, something he could actually touch. The system confirmed his new status, Gravity Tao Seed, a permanent buff to strength and endurance. This changed everything. He didn't fully understand the implications, but the feeling of power was undeniable. He was no longer just a mere survivor. Zachary gripped his axe, breakthrough energy spreading through his arm. It felt like he had finally glimpsed a fundamental truth of the multiverse. In his mind, he saw that mysterious woodcutter again. The weight behind that man's strikes was transcendental. He realized his previous technique had many flaws. Compared to the illusion, his previous slashes were just fantasies, while the woodcutter's slash was the only real thing. Zachary focused, trying to channel that same essence. He needed to feel the absolute weight behind every swing. He poured all his new awareness into the next attack. With a thunderous boom, a massive rift tore through the ground, leveling the stone monkeys in its path. The force was terrifying. Zachary stood atop the carnage, gasping for air. Even though this attack was powerful, he knew he had only scratched the surface. The man in the illusion had something even greater. The image of the slash splitting the world still haunted him. It had a depth he hadn't grasped yet. Zachary looked at his reflection on the axe blade, eyes burning with new ambition. Could he reach that level of power? The mysterious woodcutter remained a silent, steady goal in his mind. A benchmark for what was possible. A system notification appeared, accompanied by a title that left him stiff. Child of Tao, the third person in the world to reach enlightenment and create a Tao Seed. Zachary's eyes widened as the words third person sank in. He wasn't the first. There were two others ahead of him. He thought about the world outside the island. The tutorial had ended for everyone else a month ago. Out there, the muscular guy who survived, and the others must be fighting their own battles. He wondered how many natural geniuses like that blonde girl were perfectly suited for this new cultivation world. Had the government started rebuilding? Had organized organizations taken over territories while he was still alone here? The thought gnawed at him. He had pushed himself to the limit, believing he was in the lead. Knowing he had been surpassed by two others hurt his pride. He checked his status, level 28 Gravity Tao Seed. Strength and endurance had soared, but it still wasn't enough. Looking out at the ruined mountainside, Zachary was determined to push harder. When the dust finally settled, only the strongest would decide the order of the new world. Zachary narrowed his eyes, checking his progress on the system interface. He was so busy surviving, he almost forgot the current numbers. 9,952 logs out of a total of 10,000. Zachary Atwood took a short rest, leaning his back against a giant fallen tree. He was only a few slashes away from completing his goal. Meanwhile, deep inside the demon base, the weapon rack was ready for a life-stealing battle. Agras, one of the demon leaders, looked surprised at the latest update. The messenger reported that Kevoran was dead, likely by the same mysterious group that had eliminated the other heralds. Agras tried to maintain a serious face. When the soldier suggested they were dealing with an elite squad of indigenous warriors. Standing behind the giant guard Ilver, Agras couldn't help but burst into laughter. He was delighted that his rival had finally kicked the bucket. He pretended to cough, saying he must be allergic to something in the planet's atmosphere. He admitted he was slightly sorry to lose Lyra in the chaos. She used to spy on Kevoran for him, but he didn't lose any sleep over it. He ordered a squad to check on Cinderain and Quugo, still maintaining the role of a concerned commander. Deep down, he only hoped the natives and the remaining rivals would kill each other so he could claim exclusive control. Ilver warned him he was laughing too much, but Agras just told him to shut up. Back in the deep forest, Zachary continued his work, pushing the log count to 9,999. He wiped the sweat from his face, focusing on his final task. He aimed his axe for the final slash. The counter hit 10,000, and a terrifying burst of energy erupted from the log. Purple lightning coiled around him as his body absorbed the cosmic reward, pushing his power to new heights. With his enhanced stats, he headed toward the peaks where energy concentrated more intensely. He began to climb vertically, fingers gripping the rugged rock. He climbed the cliff easily, his body feeling lighter and stronger than ever before. Reaching a sturdy ledge, he looked down and spotted a group of creatures gathering below. He shouted to signal his presence. They all looked up in unison. The pack of stone monkeys let out a series of shrieks and lunged straight toward the mountain. Zachary didn't budge. He was itching to test his new strength. He gripped his axe tight, the blade beginning to ring with a brilliant, sparkling light. The monkeys leaped through the air, closing the gap with a giant jump. Zachary swung his axe back, cosmic energy gathering around his arm as he prepared to strike. He whispered the primary skill, chop. The head of the axe glowed white-hot and expanded as it sliced through the air. A massive shockwave tore through the mountainside, wiping out the troop of monkeys in the blink of an eye. The remaining ones were thrown backward, their bodies unable to withstand the force. He continued to climb, convinced that this mountain range was hiding something far more important than a few stone monkeys. He was sure of it. The energy in the air was so dense it couldn't be natural. The peaks above were covered in strangely glowing mist that pulsed with power. The creatures here were also different, stronger, more disciplined, and acting like coordinated guard units. Observing from the rocks, he realized these monkeys were reminiscent of the human-like demons he had faced. They moved in tight packs, patrolling the area with purpose. Each group had a larger commander leading them. He continued to sweep through, leaving a trail of broken rocks behind him. Even these elite squads couldn't stop him anymore. Day after day, he climbed peak after peak, scouring every nook and cranny of the mountain range. As the sun set, he stood alone on the summit. He had cleared the area, but the next heralds were still nowhere to be found. Zachary narrowed his eyes, focusing his gaze downward. He had spent days searching the summit, only to finally realize he was looking in the wrong place. The heralds weren't on the mountaintop. He peered down into a massive crater and spotted a glowing white flower. That was where the energy was concentrated. Without hesitation, he stepped off the cliff's edge and began his descent into the valley. As he approached, he remained on high alert, his mind racing through potential strategies. But then he froze completely, sensing a massive spike of energy. The plant was even more impressive up close, pulsing with deep veins of purple and red energy. He couldn't believe the scale of it. It looked as if it had been growing there for centuries. And then he saw him, Cinderain, a level 58 stone monkey herald, sitting in absolute silence at the base of the plant. The creature's eyes suddenly snapped open, flashing with a dangerous golden light. Zachary didn't waste a second, initiating a surprise aerial ambush and bringing his massive axe down with all his strength. But the herald was faster. He caught the enchanted blade with his bare hands, the force of the impact cracking the ground beneath them. Zachary was stunned. He had never seen anything just catch his axe like that. Cinderain let out a low growl, his hands clamping onto the metal blade like a vice. The beast's eyes were full of bloodlust, showing no fear of the human's weapon. Suddenly, a burst of energy erupted from the herald, forcing Zachary to brace himself. Zachary realized he was overextended. His axe was stuck, and he was losing his leverage. With an explosive shove, Cindermane sent him flying backward. Zachary slid across the crater's rocky floor, digging his heels in to stop his momentum. He had to admit this was a real opponent. Even with his strength tripled since the last boss fight, he was still being pushed back. He tightened his grip on the axe handle, knowing that between his new class and his Dao seed, he should have had the advantage, but this monkey was born different. Looking at his opponent, he knew this fight would be 10 times harder than the one against Vul. He took a cautious step forward, regaining his stance, and Cindermane followed suit, his footsteps heavy and deliberate. Zachary broke into a sprint, his speed becoming a blur as he closed the gap. But the herald didn't wait for him to arrive, charging straight into the fray as well. The beast stomped its feet onto the ground, channeling cosmic energy directly into the earth. Giant, razor-sharp stone spikes erupted from the crater floor, aimed straight at Zachary's chest. The stone cracked and groaned under the herald's magical pressure. Zachary reacted instantly, his axe becoming a streak of light as he hacked through the obstacles. He leaped over the remaining debris, his eyes locked on his target. He lunged down from above again, but Cindermane moved to intercept him. It aimed its sharp hand straight at the protagonist's face, but was knocked aside by Zachary's axe handle. Immediately afterward, he followed up by punching the creature in the face. However, the monkey countered instantly with a claw swipe, leaving a bleeding wound on his body. The match grew increasingly chaotic, droplets of red blood splashing onto the dark wooden tree trunk. They traded dozens of blows in the blink of an eye, blocking, dodging, and striking in a frantic dance of death, the plant's white flowers now stained with blood. As the fight escalated, Zachary broke into a high-speed sprint, a moving blur along the crater wall, clashing with Cindermane again, their movements so fast they left light trails in the air. Zachary realized one thing. The beast wasn't just fighting, it was repositioning itself to always stand between Zachary and the glowing plant. A dark smile spread across Zachary's face as he realized the monkey's fatal weakness. He didn't even need to aim for the herald. Aiming for his precious plant was enough. Zachary poured all his strength into a downward overhead swing, banking on the beast's protective instincts. And as expected, the herald threw himself into the path of the blade, using his own back to absorb the full force of the blow to save the plant. Zachary poured more power into the strike, his eyes flashing with cruelty, thrilled that his gambit had succeeded perfectly. The axe bit deep into the herald's flesh, drawing a primal, agonizing roar that echoed throughout the valley. Cindermane's fingers continued to claw at the metal, his hand trembling in excruciating pain. Zachary couldn't help but respect the herald's determination. The beast knew the price and was willing to die for it. But respect didn't mean mercy. Zachary pushed harder, the clashing energy creating a blinding flash of light. The sound of hissing flesh and grinding bone echoed as the herald fought to stand his ground. With one final ear-splitting roar, Cindermane bellowed out to the surrounding mountains. The sound traveled for miles, an haunting signal echoing through the jagged peaks. Zachary's heart sank. He knew that roar. It was a call for reinforcements, just like the low-level stone monkeys used to do. Before he could land the finishing blow, a rock flew from out of nowhere, smashing straight into Zachary's head and sending him reeling. Zachary tumbled across the rocky ground, his momentum finally stopping near the edge of the crater. He staggered to his feet, blood streaming from a fresh gash on his forehead. This was his best chance, and he was losing it. He knew that if he retreated now, he might never get another chance to face a herald one-on-one. But when he looked up, the horizon was already filled with a sea of stone-skinned monsters rushing toward him. He cursed under his breath, knowing that charging back into that chaos wasn't bravery, it was suicide. The ground began to shake under the weight of hundreds of stone monkeys, their golden eyes flashing like 1,000 tiny stars. Realizing the battle was temporarily lost, Zachary turned and bolted toward a nearby cliff to find cover. He knew he wasn't in any condition to fight a war of attrition across the entire mountain range. Every step was a struggle, his body screaming in protest from the wounds he had already sustained. The thunderous footsteps of the horde were right on his heels, and his cosmic energy reserves were critically low. He spotted a cave mouth ahead, realizing that the noise he was making must have alerted every predator for miles around. He lunged into the darkness of the cave, the sounds of the pursuit echoing against the cliff walls. Zachary skidded to a halt, dust swirling around his boots. He looked back to see the first wave of the horde reaching the cave entrance, their roars filling the cramped space. He gasped for air, a desperate, frantic plan forming in his mind. He knew this was a gamble, but it was the only option he had left. If he wanted to live long enough to settle the score with the heralds, he had to change the rules of the game. He tightened his grip on the axe handle, channeling his last bit of energy into the blade. He needed a strike powerful enough to bring the whole place down. With a primal roar, he hacked into the cave's ceiling, the impact triggering a massive explosion of rock and dust. Large boulders came crashing down, crushing the lead stone monkeys and sealing the cave entrance with a deafening crash. Zachary stood in the darkness, surrounded by dust and shadows. As the cave collapse settled, the horde's roars were also silenced. He found himself trapped in a small, sealed pocket of the cave, surrounded by darkness. The young man began bandaging his wounds, frustrated that even with his new strength, he was still being pushed to his limits. He inspected the debris, knowing that at least one of the two remaining heralds was very close on the other side. He groaned as he stood up, guessing that this place likely connected to the demon mines he had seen earlier. He gripped his axe and began walking through a narrow gap to find another way out. The path led him deeper and deeper into the heart of the mountain. He stepped into a vast chamber glowing with a strange, bioluminescent blue light. Touching the cave wall, he could feel cosmic energy vibrating right through his palm. With energy density this thick, he was certain the fourth herald was lurking somewhere in the depths. He continued his journey, scanning every shadow for traces of his target. A sudden sound echoed from ahead, causing him to stiffen. He quickly hugged the cliff wall, moving as silently as a ghost. Peering around the corner, he spotted something moving in the blue light. It was an imp. He knew that if one of these little creatures was here, its master couldn't be far away. The creature was cackling to itself, busy picking up glowing crystals from the cave floor. He watched the little monster dance around, completely unaware of his presence. The imp paused for a moment, checking its surroundings with a toothy grin. It was hoarding a pile of Nexus crystals, resources so precious that an ordinary monster shouldn't have any. Zachary was surprised to see these actually had a use, but it also gave him an idea. He planned to follow the imp back to its source and find the herald's lair. But before he could make his move, a massive shadow lunged out of the gloom. A giant cave lizard clamped its jaws shut, snatching the imp out of midair. He could only stand and watch as his entire tracking plan was devoured right before his eyes. The lizard was a monstrous creature, its body covered in dangerous-looking glowing spots. It swallowed the poor imp in a disgusting, bloody gulp. Now the beast turned its golden eyes toward the much larger meal standing in the tunnel. It lunged forward with a fierce hiss, jumping straight at him. He didn't blink. One clean, powerful swing of his axe cleaved the monster in two instantly. He let out a sigh, shaking the lizard's blood off his weapon. He bent down to pick up the Nexus crystals the imp had been carrying. There was no reason to leave good loot on the ground while he was here. He began scanning the floor for any trail the little monster might have left behind. A faint, sickly green vapor began to rise from the cave floor. Zachary held his nose, almost gagging at the imp's horrific stench of rot. Luckily, the smell was easy to track. He just had to follow the trail of rot through the tunnels. A sharp, rhythmic, metallic sound began to echo from ahead. It was the unmistakable sound of a pickaxe hitting stone, ringing but clear. He had found the source. A group of demons was hard at work mining the cliff face. Zachary's territorial instinct kicked in. They were mining his Nexus crystals, and he didn't plan on sharing. Zachary heard the grunting language of the demons echoing through the dark tunnel. He realized they were closer than he thought, and braced himself for a fight. With nowhere left to hide, he decided to take the initiative. A group of purple-skinned demon miners was shuffling through the cave, fatigue weighing down their shoulders. They whispered to each other, complaining about the supervisor treating them like slaves. One of them waved away his comrades, warning, thinking they were far enough away to speak freely. He led them through the bioluminescent tunnels, still bitter about being accused of stealing crystals. He smirked, planning to find a rich vein and keep a few for himself this time. Suddenly he stopped, a cold, freezing sense of horror spreading through him. His companions began to tremble when they realized they weren't the only creatures in the dark. Before they could turn around, Zachary's axe descended in a silent, brutal slash. The remaining miners could only watch in horror as their comrade was cleaved in two in the blink of an eye. Panic erupted as Zachary lunged at the next one, forcing them to scatter in a desperate bid for survival. Zachary's eyes were burning with intense light, his face splattered with demon blood. He stomped forward, the sound of breaking bone echoing in the silent cave. A surge of energy followed his every movement as he hunted down the survivors. He cornered a red-haired miner, who only managed a painful moan before being caught. One heavy final blow ended the struggle before the demon could even resist. Another miner tried to escape, desperately hopping to reach the main chamber. He roared a warning for his master, Qugo, but a hail of blades pierced through his shoulder, pinning him to the cliff wall with a dull thud. Zachary leaped through the air, closing the distance at a terrifying speed. The miner only had time to reach out one last time before his life was snuffed out. Another clean slash, and the mining tunnel fell back into silence. Zachary landed in a pool of blood, his boots making a faint rustling sound in the absolute stillness. He exhaled slowly, knowing his covert plan had almost been exposed. He checked the area, hoping he had taken them out quickly enough to avoid triggering an alarm. He moved toward the light, his expression growing increasingly stern as he approached his target. When he peeked into the next cavern, he realized he had accidentally stumbled into the enemy's hub of activity. The massive cavern was packed, with imps and elite guards gathered around a glowing toxic cauldron. Zers and the demonic shield knight immediately spotted the intruder, stunned to see a human had made it this deep. The multi-eyed imps scurried around the boiling pot, their faces twisted in confusion. Kyugo, a level 44 herald, rose from his robe, his 4 eyes locked onto Zachary with murderous intent. Zachary did not back down. He stepped straight into the center of the room, ready to end the invasion. The herald let out a piercing shriek, releasing a surging wave of purple energy. A massive stream of fire roared through the cave, turning the air into a literal furnace. Zachary slid across the stone floor, narrowly avoiding the bulk of the magical fire. He didn't wait for a second attack. He lunged straight into the fray. His axe collided with the demon knight's massive shield, sending sparks flying with a ringing metallic sound. He poured all his weight into the strike, the heavy metal shield beginning to crack under the pressure. His eyes flashed with absolute focus, searching for the single opening to end the match. Zachary narrowly avoided a lightning-fast slash as Zers lunged to kill. Kyugo shrieked at the assassin to finish the job, his 4 eyes wide with desperation. Zachary didn't hesitate, suddenly attacking Zers and driving his blade deep to eliminate the threat. Having lost his guard, the herald roared in agony and released a violent wave of purple energy. Zachary spun around just in time to see the entire cavern filled with the herald's unstable power. He leaped high, using the knight's massive body as a stepping stone. Purple flames roared around him, threatening to swallow him whole as he hovered in midair. He landed heavily on the ground, his mind spinning as he realized this wasn't ordinary fire. He observed Kyugo carefully, realizing the heralds depended on range just like low-level imps. If he wanted to win, he had to close the distance and force the demon into close combat. He charged through the fire, the heat crackling against his skin as he pushed forward. With a roar, Zachary leaped toward the herald, his axe ready to deliver the final blow. A brilliant energy collision created a massive shockwave that shook the cavern walls. Zachary tore through the thick, swirling smoke, searching for any gap in the herald's defense. He realized the herald was so desperate it was willing to burn everything, including itself. His gaze fell on the boiling green cauldron, the toxic fumes making his head spin. Kyugo wasn't finished, swinging his staff to unleash another concentrated blast. The explosion rocked the ground near Zachary, sending debris flying in all directions. Zachary spun quickly, his movements becoming a blur as he dodged the radiation bombs. Another explosion echoed through the cavern as the herald's power continued to surge. Zachary gritted his teeth, realizing he had been cornered with no easy escape route. He faced Kyugo directly, who stood before the cauldron like a twisted priest. The demon smiled sinisterly, its multi-eyed face twisted in a creepy, confident grin. It released one final, massive blast of purple sparks, intending to incinerate Zachary on the spot. Kyugo's smile froze when he saw a golden light rising from the heart of the fiery hell. Zachary charged straight through the flames. Energy from his armor created a protective barrier. He remembered the breastplate's previous owner and the brutal battle to claim it. The armor possessed a special ability to block and counter powerful attacks. He realized that defense mechanism also worked effectively against magical fire. He burst from the smoke like a shining meteor, his axe raised high above his head. He struck down with crushing force, the impact shattering the ground and kicking up a cloud of dust. Zachary stood tall, his hair completely singed by the heat, but his will remained unshaken. He coughed violently, blood spilling from his mouth as his body took the blast's impact. Thick, acrid smoke continued to fill the air, stinging his eyes and lungs. He realized the smoke from the cauldron was beginning to affect his focus and coordination. He saw the herald preparing to flee, trying to fly into the darker section of the cave. Zachary gripped his axe tight, refusing to let the target escape. After going this far with one final primal roar, he charged in a desperate sprint. He poured all his remaining energy into a terrifying slash. He glared at the fleeing demon, his golden eyes flashing with resolve. The axe blade swept through the air with a sharp crack that suddenly broke the sound barrier. The blade bit deep, slicing through the herald with clean, critical efficiency. The herald's body hit the floor with a wet thud, and a system notification confirmed Zachary had leveled up again. Zachary knelt, coughing violently as the green toxic smoke from the cauldron seared his lungs, and a quest update flashed in his vision. Surrounded by the shrill, mocking laughter of low-level imps, he realized he needed to escape this chamber before the smoke finished what the herald hadn't. He tried to cover his face, but the acrid air was unavoidable, blurring his vision and rapidly draining his strength. Fighting against the numbness spreading through his limbs, Zachary focused what little energy he had left on the source of the poison. He realized that if he didn't neutralize the cauldron, the entire cave system would become a giant, inescapable death trap. Nearby, the herald's defeated corpse sizzled on the floor as the energy around the chamber began to swirl out of control. Zachary forced himself to stand and took a staggering step toward the exit, his silhouette flickering before the gate's fatting light. He stumbled through the fog, his vision reeling as the inhaled toxin took full effect on his body. His breath hitched, his knees buckled, and his final reserves of strength abandoned him after the brutal, intense battle. With a heavy thud, Zachary collapsed into the darkness of the tunnel, green smoke swirling around his unconscious form. Not knowing how much time had passed, Zachary finally slowly regained consciousness. He tried to force himself up, but immediately another wave of discomfort surged, causing his body to collapse onto the ground once more. Zachary thought shakily, "What kind of thing did the messenger craft? Why? I didn't even drink it, and it already made me vomit my guts out. But that's fine, it's mine now. These things won't help me right now anyway. First, I need to get out of here. Who knows how long I've been missing? Someone might come here to check the situation." With that thought in his head, Zachary started slowly leaving the area. Not long after, he encountered a lizard monster and gifted it an axe to the head. After taking down the monster, he headed toward the gourd tied to the side of a demon. The corpse was still exactly where he'd left it. Good, that must mean no other demon had passed this way. Without thinking much, he hurriedly grabbed the gourd and started drinking the water inside nonstop. After finishing, he comfortably sat leaning against the cave wall to rest. "Thanks for this bowl of water." He said thanks and then turned his eyes toward the armor he was wearing. "Good thing I have this armor. Its ability to deflect attacks saved my life, but the array providing energy for this skill is depleted and recharging very slowly. Looks like I can only use it once a day." Thinking, he took out a crystal from inside his spatial pouch. "I didn't think about the fact that this crystal would recharge the armor. It needs more cosmic energy, just in case I run into more enemies." Immediately, the energy from inside the crystal began to pour into Zachary's body, making him feel noticeably better. "Much better now. Finally, I feel like I can move without vomiting anymore." After that, he opened the system menu to check. "I have a few points to distribute. What the hell, why can't I add points to strength? Have I reached the limit or something? But if so, that's too unreasonable. There's no way 175 is the limit of the multiverse, right? That man definitely had strength far beyond 175. That's impossible. Could it be because my level is still low? The limit could increase with my level. Or it could be because of my race. Or it could be my class. Both are F rank, but I have no clue how to rank them up." Pondering for a bit, the protagonist felt a headache coming on, so he brushed the matter aside. "Whatever, forget it. If I lose stat points because of this, I'll go crazy. And why don't I see points being added to luck? The only reason it increases is thanks to my titles. I hate this system," he sighed wearily. In another turn of events, deep inside the mine, a group of workers were going to hand in the crystals they had mined. Among the three, there was a guy who wouldn't stop shaking, forcing the leader to remind him. "Stop shaking. She can smell fear." The other guy said shakily, "I can't do it. I know I didn't meet the quota today." The leader just reassured him. "It'll be okay. She's coming." Opposite them, the mine manager girl, along with two of her henchmen, had approached. She glanced left and right to observe the surroundings. This only made the group of workers feel more pressure than ever. But very quickly, she extended her hand forward and demanded, "Where's today's haul?" The leader hurriedly handed over the bag in his hand to her. She observed inside in silence for a moment, then dumped all the crystals into another bag. After she was done, she recorded the amount and called the next person up. This brown-haired guy stepped up shakily and said, "Manager I." On this side, the manager seemed to have guessed what he was about to say, so she interrupted. "Hand over today's haul. I don't need to hear excuses. The Azrazak clan has been blessed with this mine. I won't allow you people to waste it. Every delay gives other invaders time to consolidate their forces, time to capture us and take this mine. Is that what you want? Are you a traitor to the family?" She used the pen in her hand to lift the worker's chin and continued, "Do you know what I do to traitors?" Thinking of this, the worker was panicked, hurriedly kneeling down on the ground. "Please don't. I swear I'll never hand in less again. Please give me just one more chance, please." Unfortunately for him, these pleas were not accepted by the manager. "Let him be an example for anyone else who thinks of betraying us." Behind her, a soldier raised his sword high, intending to deal with this worker. But immediately after, he seemed to sense something and shifted his gaze to observe to one side. Sure enough, from high above, Zachary had been silently standing there, no one knew for how long. The manager shrieked, "We're under attack." From high above, countless lizard monsters began to appear. The blond guy hurriedly pulled his companion to run, while the two soldiers, seeing this, also rushed forward to take down the monsters. Standing from high above, Zachary silently observed everything. That's really convenient. That woman seems to be the leader of this place. Taking her down will definitely slow down the demons' mining progress. But more importantly, that bag is definitely full of Nexus crystals. Those salamanders seem to need my help. Returning to the battle, just as a soldier was about to finish off a salamander, a stone flew in from afar, hitting him square in the head. The thrower was naturally Zachary. Nice time to get rich. Saying this, he dove straight down. He dove like a meteor onto the battlefield, directly confronting the female manager. The female manager turned in surprise, growling to ask who dared to interrupt her work. She spotted Zachary and immediately ordered her guards to prioritize killing him over the beasts. A soldier heard this and rushed to attack the protagonist from behind, but he had noticed him early. A clean, powerful slash pierced the soldier's defense with terrifying precision and ease. The guard fell backward in pain, dropping his weapon in the exploding chaos. Disgusted by the incompetence of her crew, the manager decided to take matters into her own hands. She unleashed a series of dark, thorny tentacles whipping through the air toward him. Zachary stood firm, preparing for the storm. As the magical vines rushed forward quickly, he swung his axe in a defensive circle, creating a vortex that pushed back the attack. Slicing through the magic bullets, he prepared to take the fight directly to the manager. The manager unleashed a powerful stream of magic energy, her eyes glowing with dangerous focus. Zachary watched in amazement as she deployed a shimmering barrier that reflected his own defensive skill right back at him. Realizing his signature move was being turned against him, he panicked and dodged the recoil. The collision between the two forces created a massive shockwave, forcing him to plant his heels into the ground. He barely managed to push back the rebounding energy. Feeling the terrifying weight of his own power, vines whipped around his legs, trying to pin him down while he struggled to keep his balance. The female foreman took advantage, knowing he couldn't counterattack without risking a direct hit from his own strike. A sharp, sudden pain erupted as he took the hit. His armor failed to stop the attack. Gritting his teeth against the pain, he was determined not to let the foreman see him crumble or waver. He poured all his remaining willpower into it, preparing to turn the tide of this brutal match. Zachary shattered the magical barrier with a desperate slash, barely avoiding a lethal strike from the foreman. But thorny vines instantly lunged forward, wrapping tightly around his body with suffocating pressure. He thrashed, trying to break free as the magical strands tightened and drained his energy away. The foreman mocked him as a petty thief, clearly delighted at his pathetic, bound state, and she bragged about handing him over to her superiors, confident that her trap had finally succeeded. Zachary ignored the sarcasm, his eyes still burning with an unquenchable light despite being heavily restrained. She continued to boast that he couldn't touch her, thinking she had total control. Suddenly, he channeled a burst of primal power, slicing through the vines with blinding speed. The smug smile on the foreman's face vanished instantly as the axe blade closed the distance. He delivered a heavy, decisive blow that shattered her composure and forced her onto the defensive. Zachary initiated a brutal aerial assault, while an elite guard suddenly lunged in to attack from the side. The horrific collision sent the guard falling, with no chance to recover. The foreman watched in horror, wondering how a mere human could possibly possess such power. He maintained the pressure, diving into the fray with the intensity of a terrifying monster. She realized his strength was on par with a general and marked him as a threat that needed to be eliminated. Desperate to stop him, she decided she had to neutralize him before he caused any more chaos. She channeled her entire reserve of magic, unleashing a final, high-risk blast to stop him in his tracks. Zachary glared at her with cold determination. Refusing to back down from the incoming energy, the powers of both sides collided in a massive explosion, shaking the cave walls with chaotic primal energy. Standing amidst the settling dust, he realized the miners had already fled the scene. With his cover blown, Zachary realized the demons would soon overrun the entire mine. He decided to abandon the underground route entirely and focus completely on hunting down the final herald. Taking a moment to bandage his wounds, he found a glimmer of hope in the recent chaos. Reaching into his loot bag, he pulled out the spoils he had risked his life to claim. The precious Nexus crystals were finally in his hands, making the dangerous raid well worth it. He turned his attention to the durable demon gear that had survived the horrific explosion. Noticing the fabric possessed rare reflective magic similar to his own high-end armor, he paused to consider the absurdity of wearing it. Weighing pride against survival and deciding that practicality always beats appearance. He pulled the red dress onto himself. Fully equipped with his bizarre new outfit, he prepared to finish the job. Zachary decided to head back through the collapsed section of the cave, hoping the local threats had dispersed. Checking his interface, he noticed a new notification pop up. The system revealed a new class quest, requiring him to walk 1,000 kilometers. He brushed off the distance as a minor challenge, confident he could complete it quickly. Suddenly, his vision shifted as a mysterious, high-level dynamic quest activated without warning. The system projected a grand objective, urging him to triumph and seize power. A fantastically glowing ancient tree appeared in his mind, radiating an enormous aura of ancient energy. He witnessed a ripe fruit fall from a branch, the sensory illusion feeling almost too real. Returning to reality, he took a breath. His resolve hardened into a single goal. He swore to claim that reward for himself. Even as the demon army tightened its siege, a massive pillar of light signaled the appearance of the legendary Ascension fruit, surprising the general when he realized the true value of this treasure. He recalled the fierce beast that had been blocking his search teams for years. He finally understood that the beast had merely been guarding the tree until the fruit was fully ripe. It turned out the monkey had played them all while clinging to the prize. The general watched in a rage, wondering how the beast had broken free from his mind control. Frustrated by the betrayal, he cursed the situation as his plans fell into chaos. He swore to make the beast pay for radiating its crackling, dark energy. Ordering the regiments to mobilize, he prepared to lead his troops toward the mountain. He turned to his cousin, ready to discuss the implications of this sudden divine proclamation. The general barked back at his cousin, firmly asserting that rank stood above blood. Ryle mocked the general for losing control of the beasts he had unleashed. He enjoyed the irony of the situation. He took pleasure in thinking about how the elders would hear this news. The general tried to silence him, declaring he would handle the beast problem personally. Ryle just laughed loudly, insisting that the general was completely incapable of fixing this mess. A sudden surge of power erupted between the two. As tension reached its breaking point, the general warned him about defying tribal law and angering their grandfather. Ryle remained calm, subtly implying that their grandfather was already fully aware of the current failure. He revealed that the elders had only appointed the general because they doubted his true capabilities. An official decree was issued, stripping the general of his command due to inexperience. The general snatched the decree, his rage surging as he read the content, and he stared at the document in shock. Realizing his power had been stripped clean, a pure, unadulterated fury swallowed him, his eyes flashing with unstable and dangerous magical intensity. Ryle remained calm and arrogant, suggesting his cousin retreat to safety while he handled the situation. He walked away from the general with a mocking farewell, clearly enjoying his new position of power. Walking away with a smug smile, Ryle prepared to claim the legendary prize for himself. Meanwhile, Zachary observed the entire drama from afar, his eyes locked onto the distant objective. He knew a direct attack was suicide, so he began mapping out a more cautious path. The system updated his quest log, emphasizing the time limit to seize the ripening fruit. With the location revealed, he prepared to outmaneuver the demons and claim the ultimate reward. Zachary realized the system was pushing for a large-scale confrontation between the conflicting factions. He knew the demons and the guardian beast wouldn't share the prize without a bloody battle. Observing the chaos unfold, he wondered if challenging them for the fruit was absolute madness. Despite the obvious danger of a suicide mission, he felt he had no other choice. The legendary tree glowed with enormous power, signaling a quest he couldn't ignore. He was determined not to let the rare treasure fall into the enemy's hands. With his mind locked onto the reward, he prepared to strike at the perfect moment. Knowing the fruit needed another 12 hours to ripen, he decided to stay calm. Charging in now would only make him a target for the demon army surrounding him. As the demons marched toward the mountain, he planned to overcome them all on his own. Zachary knew he had to hide until the very last second to seize the fruit. He watched the demons from the shadows, hoping to take out the general while he was distracted. This was a high-stakes gamble. Failure wasn't an option if he wanted to survive. He moved through the dark terrain, fully aware that his entire mission depended on this moment. Despite the overwhelming odds, he kept a confident smile, ready to face whatever came next. The ground shook as he crossed the treacherous mountain path. Nearing the legendary prize, he gasped for air, feeling the massive energy radiating from the tree as it neared maturity. Chaos erupted nearby as the demon forces engaged the guardian beast in a bloody struggle. He watched the massive creatures tear through the landscape, their roars echoing throughout the valley. The tree glowed with a mystical light, signaling that the time for his final strike was near. The battlefield erupted as the demons and stone monkeys clashed in a fierce, high-stakes tug-of-war. Zachary observed the carnage, noticing that while the demons were temporarily gaining the upper hand, the outcome remained uncertain. He realized the demons were burning through their energy reserves, while the monkey horde fought tirelessly. These stone guardians were persistent on their home turf, turning the entire mountain into a chaotic death trap. Watching the chaos unfold, Zachary knew this was the perfect distraction for him to act. A sudden shift in the air caught his attention, pulling his eyes toward a powerful aura. The general had finally entered the fight, cutting through the enemy ranks with terrifying, effortless precision. Zachary sneered, lucky that the high-level target had foolishly left the safety of his fortress. Seizing the moment, he sprang into action, hoping that being hornless would help him hide. He dove into the battlefield with lethal intent, ready to strike when the chaos hit its peak. Zachary dove into the middle of the skirmish, his bizarre outfit immediately drawing attention from a nearby demon guard squad. They were clearly confused by his appearance, struggling to process the sight of a human wearing such a distinct getup. The lead demon questioned his identity, but Zachary kept his head low to avoid unnecessary talk. His silence only made the guards more suspicious as they glared with growing hostility. He tried to stay calm and keep moving, hopping to slip through without a fight. The guard finally realized he was a human, shattering the illusion and forcing the situation to escalate. Arrows flew toward him, but Zachary swatted them away with ease. His combat instincts were sharper than ever. He warned them they should have let him pass, as his patience had officially run out. He channeled energy into his weapon, preparing to unleash a devastating blow on his enemies. He vaulted into the air, closing the distance to deliver a crushing blow to the demons. Zachary unleashed a brutal slash, completely catching the demon guard by surprise with his speed. The soldier was stunned, barely able to process the sudden, overwhelming force of the attack. Moving like a blur, he cleared a path with a flurry of precise, high-energy movements. He left his enemies behind in the dust, his aura radiating a power they couldn't match. Checking the system, he realized he had less than 20 minutes until the fruit ripened. He decided to conserve his energy, hopping to avoid unnecessary combat until he secured the prize. Crossing through the dark forest, he noticed a strange, eerie silence blanketing the entire valley. The battlefield ahead was a chaotic mess of crackling energy surrounding the glowing legendary tree. He felt the environment being drained, as if the tree were sucking up all the local cosmic energy. Witnessing the fierce struggle, he prepared to intervene before the defenders lost their final battle. A demon guard paused, sensing something was wrong as he gripped his sword in the shadows. His eyes widened, suddenly realizing he wasn't the only creature in the fog-filled forest. Before he could react, a quick slash from the darkness caught him completely off guard. Zachary knew he couldn't hide forever, so he stepped out to face the skirmish. With the fruit near its final stage, he had to reach the center of the conflict. He decided to loop around the western edge of the battlefield to avoid the densest enemy forces. Charging forward with a burst of speed, he cut through the darkness like lightning. The system timer counted down to 10 minutes, signaling that the ultimate reward was near. He wove through the massive combatants, dodging heavy blows. As he neared the tree, he gasped and froze completely, stunned by an unexpected sight. Zachary discovered a force field shield, created by the system, protecting the legendary tree from the chaos. Realizing this barrier would likely collapse the moment the fruit reached full maturity. With only 6 minutes on the clock, the tension in the valley reached its peak. A high-level demon commander stepped out. Locking eyes with the beast guarding the prize, the two powerhouses collided in a blur of motion, shaking the ground beneath them. The demon leader wore a savage grin, clearly savoring the thrill of this brutal match. They exchanged heavy blows, their weapons clashing with enough force to create shockwaves everywhere. The beast roared defiantly, but the demon remained calm, easily seizing the advantage. With a precise slash, the commander forced his opponent to retreat, taking full control of the battle. The guardian staggered, gasping for breath as he desperately tried to maintain his defense against the storm of attacks. The general dominated the battlefield with ease. His blade sliced through the opposition without effort, while Zachary watched the carnage unfold. Realizing his attacks were useless against the guardian's thick hides, he knew he had to intervene immediately if he wanted any hope of claiming the reward. The clock ticked away the final moments. As the tree vibrated with primal energy, the guardian beast and the general locked eyes. Sensing a sudden shift in the air, a massive surge of magical power erupted, drawing everyone's attention toward the source of the light. Zachary emerged with a cold, calculated smile, ready to wreck the general's plans. He unleashed a focused burst of energy, cutting through the chaos with terrifying speed and focus. The impact sent shockwaves rippling across the valley, throwing the demon forces into complete disarray. Dust and debris blinded the air, leaving the general stunned by the sudden and unexpected ambush. Zachary swept across the chaotic battlefield, desperately scanning for his target through the swirling downpour. A brilliant sword beam suddenly erupted, catching him completely off guard. He reacted on pure instinct, swinging his weapon to deflect the high-speed attack. Recognizing the armor, the opponent identified him as the one who had caused Kevoran's sudden death. The enemy lunged with lethal intent, forcing Zachary to pivot and dodge by a hair's breadth. Struggling to keep pace, he realized his opponent possessed terrifying speed and overwhelming primal strength. A sharp curve of energy sliced through the air, missing him by a fraction of an inch. The two warriors exchanged blows in a high-stakes dance, testing each other's limits and reflexes, breathless and reeling. Zachary questioned his reckless decision to attack such a formidable foe. The opponent smirked, remarking that now that the enchantment effect had faded, they could finally settle things once and for all. Zachary finally faced his formidable opponent head-on. The three warriors observed one another. Tension spiked as they exchanged intense glares, their eyes burning with primal competitive energy. Ryle mocked Zachary for finally crawling out of the shadows, eager to test his own strength. With only a minute left until the fruit ripened, the race for the treasure officially began. Ryle drew his sword with a smug smile, inviting his opponent to prove his worth. Zachary realized this opponent was far stronger than anyone he had faced in this dungeon. Despite his superior strength stats, he struggled to land even a single blow on Ryle. Frustrated by the stalemate, he decided to shift his focus to the truly greater threat. He shouted to the guardian beast, offering a temporary truce to deal with the intruder. The giant beast roared in disagreement, preparing to unleash a devastating attack on their mutual enemy. Zachary narrowly dodged a crushing punch that shattered the ground beneath his feet. He dove into the high-speed exchange, trading heavy blows with the formidable demon rival. Their weapons clashed with primal force, creating shockwaves that rippled across the entire area. The distance closed rapidly as they continued their relentless dance of steel and magic. The general channeled crackling electricity into his blade, preparing for a terrifying follow-up strike. Zachary realized he was completely overwhelmed in the direct confrontation and needed a new plan. He desperately searched for an opening while the battlefield exploded in blinding purple light. With 34 seconds left on the clock, the tension reached its limit. They were moving into position to snatch the fruit the moment the barrier vanished. That meant he knew exactly where they would be. As the clock ticked down to 23 seconds, the race for the fruit became even more brutal. Zachary watched the general and the guardian clash, waiting for the perfect moment. A massive explosion of energy erupted as the two collided in a blinding clash. Seeing the chaos unfold, he realized this was the golden opportunity he had been waiting for. He gripped his weapon, channeling power as the system clock hit 15 seconds. With no time to waste, he lunged forward to capitalize on the distraction from their fight. His eyes burned with intense focus, fully committed to taking down both targets at once. He dove into the fray, moving with lethal speed toward the center of the conflict. He unleashed a strike. The air crackled with energy as he darted across the battlefield with 10 seconds remaining. The general and the beast froze, suddenly sensing a new, dangerous presence entering their private duel. Zachary attacked with everything he had, closing the remaining gap as the final 7 seconds ticked away. Zachary's sudden explosive attack caught the general completely off guard, shattering his composure instantly. A shockwave tore through the area as the countdown reached 5 seconds. He ignored the chaos and lunged, closing the remaining distance with singular, desperate focus. Leaping over the debris, he pushed his body to the limit with only 2 seconds remaining. Swinging his weapon with a final burst of momentum, he aimed to shatter the protective barrier. The system-generated force field finally shattered into shimmering shards, exposing the reward to the open air. The fruit of ascension ripened at the exact moment, pulsing with a brilliant, otherworldly light. He sliced through the remaining energy tether, separating the treasure from the ancient branch. Reaching out with a steady hand, he snatched the glowing fruit right out of the air, quest complete. He claimed the ultimate reward, while the battlefield remained submerged in stunned silence. Zachary knew the real challenge had only just begun now, that the reward was in his hands. And with the entire valley turning its hostile gaze toward him, he had to get out. As soon as his feet hit the ground, Zachary swung his axe with all his might, cleaving the monsters in front of him in two. "Get the hell out of my way," he cursed under his breath. He then began swinging the axe relentlessly, shattering every enemy that dared to get close. However, they seemed completely indifferent to death, charging at him without pause, which made Zachary feel a bit overwhelmed. I knew snatching that fruit wouldn't be this easy. Fine, if they wanted to throw their lives away just to block his path, then he would oblige. With that thought, he focused his strength into the blade of the axe and unleashed a death whirlwind, hacking the surrounding soldiers into countless pieces. Their mangled corpses rained down like a gruesome storm. But in that exact moment, his danger sense flared up. Before he could react, the general, Rydell, lunged at him. But thankfully, Zachary sensed it just in time to raise his weapon and block the strike. Even so, the sheer force of the blow blew him backward, slamming him hard into a cliff face before he came to a stop. Yet in that very moment, his danger sense flared up again. Rydell lunged at him once more. But this time, Zachary managed to spot him just in time to raise his weapon and block the strike. Despite the block, the weight of the attack still blew his body away, finally slamming him into the cliffside. A blood-curdling scream echoed from him. As Zachary fell to the ground, he muttered, "Damn it. Looks like the grab-the-fruit-and-run plan is off the table. They're actually putting aside their grievances just to stop me. What an honors." With no chance to sneak away anymore, Zachary gritted his teeth, and all three of them collided at once. A deafening roar shattered the air. A massive explosion occurred as all three sides clashed. The sheer pressure of the shockwave blew the surrounding foot soldiers away. One demon soldier, seeing this, ran over in alarm to check the situation, but was held back by his comrade. "Stop! You'll just get in General Rydell's way. Besides, what could we possibly do in a battle between monsters like them?" Meanwhile, Zachary fought while his mind raced. "It feels like he's even stronger than me. I can't shake him off. Every time I try to run, he cuts me off. I have to use every ounce of my strength just to keep up with him. God damn it, these bastard demons and their thunderbolts. Even if I block his attacks, it doesn't solve anything. I still get electrocuted all the same. And worse, this demon has a Dao seed, too. Every one of his strikes carries this incredibly sharp, cutting sensation." Just as he blocked an attack, Zachary's body seized up and he dropped to his knees. Did that bolt of lightning make my muscles spasm? He gritted his teeth and thought, but Rydell seized the opening to lunge forward and run his sword through Zachary's body. The severe wound made Zachary vomit blood as he collapsed before the demon. Rydell laughed triumphantly. "Pathetic. You have the guts to reach my level, but that's all the skill you've got. Now I'll take that fruit back." As he spoke, he leaned down to snatch the storage pouch from Zachary. But just then, Cindermane lunged out and punched the general aside. Its eyes were filled with ferocity, as if it wouldn't allow anyone to touch what was its own. This drove Rydell into a rage. "You lice-ridden monkey! How did that incompetent Ogres manage to cause me this much trouble so easily? Letting those damned beasts challenge us. I knew using these animals was a mistake from the start. That prodigal son should have been whipped and dragged through the streets half dead, if not for his grandfather backing him. Once I achieve my goal, I will." His words were cut short, as Cindermane's body was suddenly sliced in two, much to his shock. The one who struck was, of course, Zachary. Clutching his stomach wound, he said, "I wasn't planning on dealing with the messenger first, but whatever." The system notified him that he had leveled up, and that 4 out of 5 invaders, messengers, and generals had been eliminated. Now it was just him and Rydell. Across from him, Cindermane's death didn't faze Rydell in the slightest. "Just you left, huh? As if those measly messengers could even touch my true power." He spoke while using his magic to control another sword, hovering it around himself before lunging at the protagonist. Their weapons clashed repeatedly, creating heavy shockwaves. In that moment, the protagonist seemed to have an epiphany. The Tao of Heaviness and the Chop's skill, the two abilities Zachary had been alternating between, merged like two rivers flowing into one. In that instant, Zachary felt a surge of new power. He let out a roar, pouring his entire body's strength into the attack. His overwhelming power took Rydell by surprise. "Impossible! This world hasn't even been initialized for 3 months yet. You shouldn't be anything compared to me." As he finished speaking, an energy pillar exploded between them. When the dust cleared, Rydell was covered in wounds and couldn't even speak. He used his remaining strength to create countless energy swords in the air, then controlled them to strike straight at the protagonist. Zachary responded with a heavy slash, creating a massive energy wave that shot upward and collided with the swarm of energy swords. Another terrifying explosion rocked the battlefield. After the aftershocks faded, Zachary lay on the ground, several energy swords pinned through him. General Rydell limped toward him. Both of them were drenched in blood. Without another word, Rydell controlled another energy sword toward Zachary, while Zachary could only scream at himself, "Move, you bastard, just move." At the very moment Zachary was forcing himself, a sudden pang of pain shot through Rydell's body. It turned out a sword had pierced him from behind. A familiar voice rang out, "Hello, cousin." Rydell let out a roar of pure fury. "Ogres." Sure enough, behind him, Agras was wearing a smirk of pure satisfaction. He stood beside the fallen demon general, the spear still dripping blood. Zack froze. He couldn't believe his greatest threat had just been killed by someone on his own side. The demon's soldiers were equally horrified, eyes wide at the bloody scene before them. When everyone finally understood what had happened, a terrified scream rang out from the ranks. The shock quickly turned to rage. They all raised their weapons toward the traitor. The entire army surged forward, intent on tearing Agras to pieces to avenge their fallen commander. Zack tried to make sense of the chaos. Was this a rescue or simply cold-blooded ambition? Agras only curled his lips into a dark smile, as if savoring the chaos he had caused. The soldiers roared and lunged, shouting the name of their fallen leader. Agras didn't run instead. He reached for a small object at his hip and shoved it into his mouth, just as the first wave of demon troops was about to crash in. From a distance, Zack watched, wondering if he still had anything to do with this battle. He was waiting for the system to report the general's death. Agras swallowed hard, his gaze dropping to the ground. He looked over his handiwork one last time, as the shadow of the army fell over him. Suddenly he convulsed violently, doubled over, and coughed up a thick spray of black blood. The traitor dropped the object to the ground, collapsing beside the demon general. Just then, the system finally chimed in mission to eliminate the envoys, and the general reached progress 5 out of 5. When the last commander died, the mission completion notice immediately appeared before Zack's eyes. The sight of both leaders lying motionless made the remaining demons freeze in place. Zack looked at the two bodies, wondering if Agras had just committed suicide to complete some plan. He considered the possibility that an opposing faction had sent assassins to sabotage the invasion. But the idea that they would sabotage their own conquest sounded insane anyway. Besides, with all the commanders dead, the invasion should have ended soon. Zack quickly pushed those thoughts aside. He couldn't let himself be distracted now. He turned to face the hundreds of demons still surrounding him. They were as bewildered as he was. But that state wouldn't last long. He had only a few seconds before they recovered and continued what they'd started. Suddenly, Agras' body twitched. Zack spun around, weapon ready, as the demon who had seemed dead began to move. Agras groaned and pushed himself up, muttering that the experience had been unpleasant. Zack wouldn't take a chance. He stepped forward immediately, preparing to finish him off. Agras raised a trembling hand, coughing, and told Zack to stop. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, he asserted that from now on they were on the same side. Zack didn't believe him. He coldly asked Agras why he shouldn't just behead him right there. Agras pointed toward the army and said that if they wanted to live, they had no time for talk. He mentioned the cauldron Zack had stolen and said it was their only escape route. Zack glanced at the demons, tightening the circle. Why should I trust someone who just stabbed his commander in the back? Agras snapped that it didn't matter if they were about to be torn to pieces. Seeing the circle close in, Zack realized the bastard was right. In his current state, he couldn't possibly carve a bloody path out of here by himself. He took out the cauldron, ready to bet everything on one last chance. Zack threw the heavy cauldron into the air with all his strength. It slammed into the ground and shattered into countless pieces. A massive explosion of glowing green toxic gas erupted from the cauldron. The poisonous cloud spread instantly, engulfing the entire valley in a deadly mist. The demon soldiers panicked as the toxin touched them. They screamed and cursed Agras' madness. Standing in the toxic smoke, Zack shouted for the next move. Agras pulled out a blue pill, shoved it into his mouth, and offered a mocking farewell. Before Zack could react, the demon vanished in a blinding light, teleporting away. Zack was left alone in the poisonous haze, furious as he cursed the bastard who had betrayed him. He realized the mountain wind would soon spread the cloud across the whole valley. The surroundings blurred into a chaotic haze as Zack sprinted through the toxic air. He held his breath, knowing each second here brought him closer to death. He looked at his bandaged arm and saw the green toxin beginning to seep in. The poison was entering his blood directly through the open wounds. Deep in his veins, the toxin particles began attacking his cells. Zack clenched his fist and desperately tried to climb to higher ground where the air might be clean. But his body began to fail. Every step grew heavier and more painful. He staggered through the trees as green veins slowly spread across his skin. Zack tried to breathe, but the toxin was too concentrated, choking him from within. With a heavy thud, he collapsed to the forest floor, his lungs burning. Through the mist, Zack saw a glowing blue lake in the middle of the woods. Using his last strength, he hurled himself into the water, desperate for safety. He swam toward the bottom of the lake, hopping to find a passage into the mountain. Then Zack realized the water was saturated with high-density cosmic energy from nearby mines. Suddenly, streams of energy shot through his body like millions of needles. This lake was no refuge. The energy in the water was burning him from the outside. Zack thrashed at the bottom, horrified to realize this water would kill him even faster than the toxin. His body felt like it was about to explode under the immense pressure of the energy. In a final desperate move, Zack took out the mysterious peach, the reward from a previous mission he had kept. He shoved the glowing fruit into his mouth, betting everything on its unknown properties. The peach tasted surprisingly delicious. Sweet juice flooded his mouth. A sudden surge of power rose up, making Zack think he might actually survive. But then his eyes widened as his body temperature shifted violently. His whole body began to emit a blinding light as the peach's power tried to heal the ravaged cells. The cooling sensation vanished quickly, replaced by a fire far worse than before. The cooling sensation vanished quickly, replaced by a fire far worse than before. Before him, everything alternated between freezing ice and scorching lightning, as his body was forcibly tempered. It was a pain beyond anything he had ever endured, cutting deeper than any blade. Zack gradually lost all feeling in his hands and feet as his body continued to sink to the bottom of the lake. A final bolt of lightning erupted. His consciousness at last dissolved into darkness.